Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Been far too long. What's happening? Two minutes past 6, top of the morning. Happy Saturday, one and all. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast, and your weekend starts here. Breaking this morning, and in a world exclusive, the Sun newspaper reveal that 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. Meanwhile, a further 1.2 million people are expected to pour into the country over the next 4 years. That would require 500,000 extra homes purely to house new arrivals. Did anyone vote for this? Let that sink in for a moment. 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be going to migrants. Meanwhile, fury as Rachel Reeves slams Brexit as she chooses Ursula von der Leyen, head of the EU Commission, over Donald Trump and pushes for a return to Brussels. Speaking of Donald Trump, could the US president sink the Chagos Islands giveaway? We've got the latest. And in a Talk Breakfast exclusive at 8:30, you don't want to miss this. We have a shocking report on the migrant crisis engulfing Bournemouth, a once idyllic British seaside town, now a hotbed of fear, crime and public anger. What about this story as well? What about this? Producer Ted drew my attention to this early doors. A charity which funds the group behind the banned pro-Iran hate march has received £500,000 in taxpayer-funded donations. You and I have paid to support an organisation which hates Britain and which loves the evil Iranian regime. You couldn't make it up, could you? Now, my priority for the entirety of this show is to get your opinions on the radio and on the telly. My phone number is 03444991000. Text the word TALK and your message to 87222. And we know you're busy, so by all means leave a voice note. Talk Breakfast is the home of the voice note, so do send me your thoughts on the big stories of the day. 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be going to migrants. I want your reaction. I need your reaction. Very excited. I've got the Daily Express's star columnist JJ Anisiobi live in the studio. Simon Danchuk, former Labour MP, now Reform UK supporter. Big names, big stories, big topics. Your calls, texts, and so much more. As the saying goes, let's talk. Delighted to have you listening on DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch the show. Head to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. Let's start with today's front pages. The Daily Mail, another damning photograph implicating not just Peter Mandelson, but Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Front page of the Mail. Starmer's dereliction of duty, as astonishing picture emerges of Andrew Epstein and Mandy, Peter Mandelson. PM admits he never personally questioned the Labour peer over his links to the paedophile before making him a UK ambassador. Now, this photograph features Jeffrey Epstein at one of his properties, dressed in a smart polo shirt, OK? He's got his chinos on. That's Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, in bathrobes, with hair still damp from the shower or the sauna or God knows what else, Peter Mandelson and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor all in one photograph. Now, it's a damning image because, first of all, it brings shame on the royal family that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor should be sat there in a bathrobe. This was a guy who was, at the time, the son of the Queen of the United Kingdom, because this is the early 2000s. The idea that he thought it was appropriate to sit around in a bathrobe with a shifty, strange, corrupt and sex-obsessed entrepreneur is one thing. Then Peter Mandelson as well. The whole thing stinks. So it's a royal scandal, but it's a political scandal too. Because when Starmer initially apologised for appointing Peter Mandelson to the biggest job in British diplomacy, which is UK ambassador to America, he said, "I'm sorry for believing Peter Mandelson's lies." Now, the Prime Minister was being incredibly devious. He was being duplicitous. He was being dishonest. He was being misleading. Because when he said, "Oh, I'm very sorry for believing Mandelson's lies," that implies that they'd had a conversation. There was no conversation. Starmer didn't speak to Mandelson before the appointment, during the appointment, or after the appointment. So Starmer, I've got to tell you, is being incredibly dishonest, duplicitous. In the House of Commons, you're not allowed to call an MP a liar. But what do you think? Is this lying? It's definitely misleading. It demonstrates not just Starmer's misjudgment, his terrible appointment to this very important role of UK ambassador to the United States, but it's dishonest too. It really is. Next front page, we've got the Daily Telegraph. Trump to take straight by force. President deploys Marine units that could put boots on the ground to secure key route for oil. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we are all hostages to Donald Trump's fortune. We've got to hope that this is a man who has a great instinct and that's going to be on the right side of history. Because let me tell you that this war in Iran is the mother of all gambles, probably the biggest gamble by a US administration since the Vietnam War. And if it plays out like the Vietnam War or the Suez crisis in this country, then that will taint Trump's legacy. It will wreck the US economy. It will perhaps provoke a global recession. It will spike inflation, impacting, of course, access to energy, which we're very exposed because of net stupid zero. So this is a very, very big gamble from Donald Trump. At the moment, at 6:09 on a Saturday morning, I'm going to give the Donald the benefit of the doubt. And I'll tell you for why. This is a self-made billionaire. This is a guy that's had highs and lows his career. He's made his money. He's lost it. He's made it back again. So his whole life has been a white knuckle ride. And what is the continuing, ongoing theme of his career, both in business, in broadcasting, and now in politics? His gut instinct and his common sense. We know that Donald is not a details man. He doesn't want any information on more than one side of A4. And even that's a struggle. But he's got common sense. He's got instinct. He's got a brain on him. And he's got life experience. He's got miles on the clock. Let's not forget that tariff war. Everyone said it was the biggest mistake ever and it would sink America. Well, it's been a triumph. And America now trades on far better terms with the rest of the world than it previously did. And no president, even a Democrat president, will reverse those changes to the tariffs because billions are pouring in to the White House. But this is a gamble. What do you think? Has Donald Trump made the right call by invading Iran in this way, taking out its weapons? We know that they've been trying to enrich uranium, that they are weeks or months away from nuclear weapons. Well, he's sunk the Navy, he's destroyed their Air Force, and he may even put boots on the ground. But has Donald Trump bitten off more than he can chew? Well, I'm nervous. I think we all should be, because it has big implications for you and I because of the economy, because of inflation. You need oil and gas to be pouring along that Strait of Hormuz. And if you don't, then our bills will go up and we will sink into recession. Why? Well, because we are playing with fire already with this government's ruinous socialist policies. So there's no room for manoeuvre. And if this is a bad war and if it's protracted and if it goes on for months, then we are in trouble. However, if the war is swift and what we see is Iran, which is the most evil and dangerous regime since the Third Reich, the world's biggest sponsor of terror, if they are neutralised and disarmed, well, then Trump goes down as the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. Not even exaggerating. So it's a roll of the dice. It's a 50-50 with Donald. But what do you think? Has Donald Trump bitten off more than he can chew? For the moment, I'm giving the Donald my cautious support. But let's see where it goes. Mandelson vetted for US role by his disgraced friend. It's a political scandal that won't go away because it's got two elements to it on the part of the Prime Minister. Misjudgment and a misleading account of what happened. Starmer didn't speak to Mandelson. So when he says, I'm sorry for believing Mandelson's lies, that implies that they sat down and Mandelson said, don't worry, Prime Minister, I'm a changed man. That was the implication. That is the impression that Starmer was giving, that he'd sat down with Mandelson. Mandelson said, mate, I got this. I promise you, I'm as good as gold. I've got no skeleton. No, that's not true. All he did, Starmer, is ask two of Mandelson's very best friends, two acolytes, two protégés, to do the vetting. And that vetting was along the line. I'll give you quickly the role play. You've got Morgan McSweeney and the other guy. And you know what they'll have said? They'll have said, Mr. Mandelson, are you a wrong 'un? And Mandelson said, oh, no, I'm not a wrong 'un at all. Brilliant. You're through. Where do we sign? Front page of the Times newspaper. Reeves promises help as war pushes up energy bills. She wouldn't need to promise help if we had access to our oil and gas fields in this country. And by the way, here's another thing that no one's talking about. Coal. Let me know what you think. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Should we bring back coal? Because I would say let's have coal, oil and gas. People are very sniffy about coal. Did you know we've got about 100 years worth of coal on our shores? 100 years. We have a century of coal. Why can't we use coal? China are building a coal-fired power station every week. It's one of the premium and main sources of energy in India. Now, of course, I'd rather have clean energy, but there's a war going on in the Middle East. Energy prices are through the roof. It's all feeding through to inflation. I think we should be digging coal and we should be drilling for oil and gas. And then Rachel from accounts wouldn't need to help us. And by the way, please don't use the word help, because I've just been talking about Starmer's misinformation, his duplicity, his dishonesty. Well, it's also a lie to say that the government's going to help with your energy. There's no help, because what they'll do is they will subsidise the energy bills and you and I will pay the price. And in that sense, we're paying twice for net zero, because without net zero, there would be no energy crisis. Iran war, no Iran war, it wouldn't matter, because we've got our own oil, our own gas, and yes, bring back coal. Let me know about coal. What do you think? Is it a step too far? I'd bring it back. I love me a bit of coal. In fact, I would be delighted. Ted Jeffrey is producing this morning. I'm delighted to say we've had an upgrade. Dean, he's not with us. His relationship's not great at the moment. The missus is not happy. She never sees him. It's rocky. The producer, Dean, and the missus are, you know, he's never home. He never says, I love you. When was the last time he brought her flowers? So he's fixing his relationship this weekend. And I'm delighted to say, therefore, that Ted Jeffrey has stepped in, who is the James Bond of talk. He's good looking. He's heroic. By the way, this is the amazing Ted Jeffrey who got that petition going for the armed forces, which was a really, really great campaign. Anyway, great. So it's going to be a noticeably better show now because we've upgraded, right? Well, let me tell you, in the dugout, it's the dream team. Also, I'll tell you who we've nicked from weekdays is Faith, who is elite level, I can't lie. No disrespect at all to Tommy, who's back in rehab, I'm afraid. He's not a world bunny. He's got issues. I just tell them, pull yourself together, mate. But anyway, so the brilliant Faith. So she's taking your calls, 03444991000. Directing our TV output is Davis, who, as you know, always makes me look fabulous. And pressing the buttons, as always, our sage lead engineer, the one and only Dave. Front page of the Sun newspaper, Apprentice star Kieran, I blew 500 quid a week on cocaine. Can I tell you that cocaine is the most wretched medicament? It really is. And I know I've watched people's personality disintegrate on the cocaine. I'm delighted to say that talk is cocaine free. The worst you'll get here is the coffee, which is, I mean, it is from Nicaragua, so there are parallels. But we're very clean here. Julia, famously drug-free. Kevin, red wine, that's it. That's his poison. So, but no, listen, it's a hideous drug. So this guy, 500 quid a week on cocaine. Some people spend that in a day. But I had a boss back in the day, years ago, worked in a nightclub, and he got into the Colombian marching powder. He became irritable, unprofessional, edgy, obnoxious. It's a hideous, terrible drug. We should do more to tackle these drugs, I think. They're destroying our society. Daily Mirror, Epstein files bombshell, Andy, Mandy and the paedophile. New pic emerges of sex offender with ex-prince and Labour peer. Unfortunately, that image just captures the entire scandal from a British point of view. You've got Andrew, you've got Mandelson and you've got Epstein all in one damning image. And it's interesting because Andrew and Mandelson are in robes. Epstein fully dressed, which is a flex. That's a power play. That's like, I own you, right? You're my little lackeys with your wet hair and your towel robing, shower gowns. And the guy was flexing his muscles and showing off. Guardian newspaper, Europe rebukes US for easing Russian oil ban. Who gives a damn what Europe think? Do you care what Europe think? Do you ever take any notice of Brussels anymore? Well, Rachel Reeves was asked in an interview, was it with the Times newspaper? She was asked to choose between Donald Trump and Ursula von der Leyen, and she chose von der Leyen, who's the head of a dying economic bloc. Do you care what Europe have to say? Europe rebukes US for easing Russian oil ban. Europe would have sway if they had powerful economies, if they had firm borders, and if they had a military. Well, they have none of those things. Daily Express, get drilling to stop soaring bills. You see, the Daily Express and me, we are just connected today. Government urge to open Britain's biggest oil field to avoid an energy crisis. And let me add to that, coal. Let's bring back some coal. iWeekend. Iran war spirals. US and Israel intensify bombing in search of a breakthrough. And last but not least, Daily Star. Andy and Mandy with Epstein, 3 muggos. Here's Andy and Mandy with mugs and bathrobes sitting at a table with pedo Epstein in the first photo of all 3 amigos. The snap is thought to have been taken at Martha's Vineyard in 1999. So much to get through. What do you think? Where do we start with this? Your reaction to all the big stories of the day, 0344 499 1000. Next up, the fearless Simon Danczuk, who used to be a member of the Labour Party. Then he grew a few brain cells and he's now Reform UK supporter. He's got a thing or two in his bonnet today, let me tell you. He's next. Don't go anywhere. Talk Breakfast, 6:19.
Coming up on tonight's Plank of the Week.
25% of migrants use Britain as a cash machine.
Fury as Sir Winston Churchill is axed from banknotes.
And Keir Starmer is named the most unpopular Prime Minister ever.
It's time for Plank of the Week.
It's getting to the point where the majority of people are on benefits. These migrants breaking to our country illegally, we put them in hotels, nice 4-star hotels, and then we give them 50 quid a week benefits, and then after they've been here about 3 years, we put them on full.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 6:21. Lovely to have your company. Should we bring back coal? Is it time to dig for coal? Peter in Shropshire. Good morning, Mark. During the 1980s, the National Coal Board discovered vast amounts of coal in South Wales. What was prevented from developing the reserves by the Thatcher government, it is still there. How about this from Neil? Good morning, Mark. If we bring back coal and sell it, not burn it, it wouldn't count against net zero anyway. And how about this from Richie in mid-Sussex? Good morning, Mark. Yes, we should scrap this lunatic policy of net zero. We should drill for gas and oil in the North Sea, frack for gas, and yes, mine for what's known as clean coal, which would be really good for fueling coal-powered stations, power stations, which the government has got rid of. In fact, every member of the front bench should be prosecuted and imprisoned, says Richie. Keep those messages coming. It is exactly 6:22. With me in the studio, Simon Danchuk, who is a broadcaster, former Labour MP and now Reform supporter. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
I want to draw your attention to this Sun exclusive. It's absolutely devastating. 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. Your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem we've got in relation to open borders, haven't we? This is research done by the Conservatives. They're saying that I think it's about 1.2 million people will come into the UK between 2026 and 2030, and that will take up 40% of the new homes that are built. It's totally unsustainable.
Well, we would need 500,000 further homes just to house the people anticipated to come before the end of the decade.
Yeah.
So when Labour talk about house building, we're not even keeping up with demand. We're in deficit here. And by the way, I thought that they'd got on top of legal immigration in this country. 1.2 million over 4 years is an eye-watering figure.
Yes, absolutely unsustainable. And the other issue is that we have lots of people economically inactive. So we've loads of people who are capable of being in work but are on benefits. They're capable of working, but they're on benefits. And so we don't need more immigrants to do the jobs. We just need to get those that are economically inactive back into employment. That's the challenge.
You're so right, because this week I had to do my phone contract, because after a couple of years the great news is these days that they're getting cheaper, aren't they? Every couple of years now. And if you've noticed this, but it's probably the only thing I can think of that's getting cheaper is the mobile phone contract. So I was paying maybe 30 odd pounds a month for it's not bad, unlimited calls, unlimited data. Fine. Anyway, it's come down by about a tenner. So that's good. So I've called the lady from EE, and we've had a nice chat, and she's actually in Glasgow and she's working from home, and she does a 10-hour day, 4 days a week, and she works for her and she loves her job. Now, the bottom line is, we talked about, it doesn't matter if you've got a bad back or you've got PTSD or ADHD or any of those other things. You can work in a call centre from your own kitchen, can't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So the world of work is making it easier to work, but fewer people are.
Yeah, exactly. You can work from home. So many of the people who might be incapacitated in some way could easily do these types of jobs.
They can do admin.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so there's no excuse for it. The issue is for government to challenge, isn't it? And that's what used to happen. If you go back in time, you couldn't just have benefits, straight away. You were challenged over whether you needed them, whether you were fit for work, and perhaps since the pandemic there just hasn't been that challenge there, and the Conservatives needed to get on top of it, but this Labour government certainly need to get on top of it, and then we'd need much fewer immigrants coming into the country to do the work that's required.
Most definitely. And you've got skin in the game. You care about this, Simon, because you're a former MP, you're a public figure, so you've got a sense of responsibility about the direction of the country. But you also have skin in the game because you've got children. And you would hope at some point that they'll get on the housing ladder. What hope if they'll be in competition with immigrants for access to new homes.
And that's what's pushing house prices up, isn't it? They're a scarce commodity. So the fewer houses that we have, or the more people that we have that require housing, then that pushes the prices up. You see it most in London, don't you? I mean,
yeah, most definitely.
Renting in London is just incredibly difficult.
Now, what bothers me, and I think in a way democracy is at fault, Simon, and politicians of all colours are at fault, because what happens, I think, with open borders, with mass legal immigration, is it's a short-term fix. It's like crack cocaine. We were talking about cocaine earlier, but it is sort of crack cocaine for the economy, because you get a temporary boost to growth, and then you also plug the gap of skills, particularly things like care homes, fruit pickers, that sort of thing. But what's been pointed out is that if you come to the country legally as a low-skilled worker, and that's 1.2 million, that's who the majority of these people will be, low-skilled workers, right? They come in and they're picking fruit, and they're cleaning the streets, and they're working in care homes. And we're lucky, we're grateful they do. But the issue you've got is that because they're low-skilled, they will have in-work benefits from day one, and they will be dependent on the state for support for the rest of their lives. And a recent bit of research suggested that if a migrant lives to over the age of 90, a low-skilled migrant, it's actually a net cost to the taxpayer of £1 million. So what would make more sense is to pay care home workers properly. Imagine if the rate of pay per hour was 20 quid in a care home. I think a lot of Brits would suddenly start thinking, yeah, I'll have a bit of that.
Yeah.
And it would be cheaper than £1 million for a migrant to spend the rest of their life.
Yes, I think that's right. And this, I mean, it's a couple of important points. This research is done by the Conservative Party that we started talking about in terms of housing. It's a bit rich coming from them complaining about migrants. They've allowed many migrants to come into the country. But I do believe it started under Tony Blair from 97 onwards. And they were responding often to pressure from employers, from large organisations, large companies who want a lot of people to draw upon to keep wages low. But that's not sustainable as a country, and we shouldn't have given in to large employers pushing for more migrants to come into the country to keep pressure on wages.
Most definitely. Phil has messaged the show, Simon. He says, good morning, Mark and Simon. Phil in Coventry here, working from 6 a.m. again on a Saturday, worked all my adult life, 62 years old this year, and just about had enough. Enough of this government, enough of paying tax, enough of the country being flooded by immigrants, only for them to be given 4 out of 10 new houses at my expense. Why? Has it been worth it? I feel betrayed.
Yeah. I think that's a strong feeling throughout the country, actually. That's why where we are democratically, that's why people are up in arms with the main two parties, in actual fact. They've had enough. They're at the end of their tether.
They are. I mean, just horrible policies, isn't it? You know, very, very wise words from Chris in Newbury. Good morning, Chris. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. He says, Mark and Simon, Europe is the sick man of the world economy. Why? Because it chose net zero fantasy over economic prosperity. It chose enforcing foreigners' human rights over opening up European human opportunity, and it chose to fight culture wars instead of preparing for real wars. The EU isn't a powerhouse, it's an inert gas. On our very own inert Chancellor is their biggest fangirl. I think that's an outstanding message from Chris. He's covered it all, hasn't he, in Europe? Open borders, the disappearance of national identity, social cohesion, net zero, high taxes, a cult of welfarism. This is the European disease, and we've got it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very articulate there. And you know, relating it back to the Iran war, which is very relevant to a lot of what we're talking about in terms of energy and everything else.
Yeah.
But we've been subsidising welfare at the cost of not subsidising defence. And Donald Trump, for all his faults, has come and said not that long ago, listen, guys, in Europe, put more into NATO. I'm not defending you anymore until you start spending on defence. And that's the issue, isn't it? And we've certainly been found wanting, bringing it right up to date, we've been found wanting. Look at the inadequacy of our military during this conflict. I mean, and the inadequacy of our Prime Minister for that.
The UK and Europe have chosen national suicide, haven't they? So net zero is economic and industrial suicide. Open borders is societal and cultural suicide. Hollowing out the military is literal suicide. I cannot think of a good policy that we've seen across the West in the last 2 decades.
No, I think
it's been decline, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Managed decline, hasn't it? It shows you how wrong we've got it on so many levels. Absolutely right.
Yeah, we've gone mad. We've lost the plot. What about this? Speaking of lost the plot, a charity behind the pro-Iran hate march, which is, let's not forget, Iran calls Britain the little Satan. A charity that loves Iran has received £500,000 worth of taxpayer funding. We've got the inside story next. 6:32, Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is 6:34. You're listening to Talk Breakfast in the company of Simon Danchuk, one of my favourite broadcasters, of course, former Labour MP, now Reform supporter, best-selling author, entrepreneur as well. Let's have a look at some front pages. The Guardian: Europe rebukes US for easing Russian oil ban. The Sun newspaper: Apprentice star Kieran, I blew £500 a week on cocaine. The Times: Reeves promises help as war pushes up energy bills. And Daily Telegraph: Trump to take the Strait of Hormuz by force. What about this story, though, in the Telegraph, Simon Danchuk? A charity which funds the group behind the banned pro-Iran hate march has received at least £450,000 in taxpayer-funded donations. The Islamic Human Rights Commission, IHRC Trust, has been recognised by HMRC for gift aid, which means it can claim an extra 25p from the government for every pound it receives in donations. So what's happened is that £500,000 out of my viewers' pockets has gone to support a charity that probably should be prescribed as a terror organisation.
Unbelievable. And I understand that they're under investigation by the Charities Commission, which is welcomed, except the Charities Commission takes literally years to investigate these, to carry out any investigations.
Did we need to investigate an organisation that represents the most wicked regime since the Third Reich?
I think we're being far too tolerant in Britain in relation to Iran, and I don't understand why. Why is this? We're practically at war with the country. They've been attacking British assets in the Middle East, and yet we're overly tolerant. Why is Starmer doing that? The only explanation I can see, especially since the Gorton and Denton by-election, is that Labour and Starmer are worried about losing Muslim votes, and they believe that the Muslim community in Britain are sympathetic to Iran and what's going on with the Iranians.
What did you make of the Prime Minister 2 weeks ago addressing British Muslims in Parliament saying, I just want you all to know we did not support the initial action against Iran? What a strange thing for a British Prime Minister to say. What motivated that?
Yeah, and I think it's exactly this. I think it's that he's concerned about losing votes in the Muslim community.
Kowtowing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the most sinister thing about that incident where Starmer addressed the Muslim community in Westminster Hall, and I urge listeners to go online and find it, is where he speaks to the Palestinian ambassador, and the Palestinian ambassador is rubbing his arm. It's just a bizarre
and whispering
incident.
in his ear,
and whispering
along the lines of "Thank you for your support, Prime Minister."
Yeah.
I mean, who's working for who here? This guy, this ambassador, looked like Starmer's boss, and in a sense, he is.
Yes, absolutely. And this is not sustainable for the country. We're a Christian country, first and foremost, and I think we need to remember that and remind our politicians of that, certainly Labour politicians. It's not acceptable that Starmer takes the lines that he does.
Most definitely not. Starmer's dereliction of duty as photo emerges of Andrew, Epstein and Peter Mandelson. Prime Minister admits he never personally questioned the Labour peer over links to the paedophile before making him US ambassador. Why is it significant, Simon, that the PM did not speak to Mandelson? Why does it put the Prime Minister in more hot water, do you think?
Well, he'd given the impression that he had spoken to him, because a few weeks ago Starmer was saying Mandelson lied to me. He didn't lie to Starmer at all. If he lied to anybody, it was to Starmer's aides. So he's been fudging the issue. There's no doubt about that.
So he's giving the implication that they had a conversation and that he was lied to.
Yeah, which is totally now.
So it was misleading of the Prime Minister and duplicitous.
Absolutely.
And not out of character, I would argue.
No, absolutely right. And this is the most sensitive, high-profile diplomatic role in Britain, and he can't find a few minutes to speak to the person that he might be giving the job to. As the front of the Daily Mail says, a dereliction of duty. It's horrific, this. And, you know, these Mandelson files came out Wednesday afternoon, and it's Saturday now, and the story goes on. It's across about half of the national newspapers. Starmer would be hoping that it had gone away by now, but it's just carrying on.
Even Beth Rigby from Sky News, who is, let's be honest, Simon, not a frothing right-winger, has said that this is a terrible story for Starmer. It's a real setback. Do you know Keir Starmer personally, Simon?
I've met him when we were in Parliament, but I haven't met him very much. What he isn't is a politician, and he's found wanting on these issues, isn't he? He devolved the decision-making down to a couple of aides, Morgan McSweeney, Matthew Doyle, and that's been found to be unacceptable. I mean, well, he had briefings telling him, didn't he? Starmer had briefings telling him that Mandelson was intimately close with a paedophile who'd been prosecuted. I mean, why would he then appoint him to become US ambassador? I don't think he can survive this, to be honest.
Really? You think that what this essentially is a story that just won't go away?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think people
That's
are furious about it. I post on social media, on Twitter, on X, I post on there, and the reaction to this issue is bigger than anything I've ever experienced on social media.
Well, thanks to the good efforts of Faith on the phones this morning, we've got a full switchboard, and Barry is in Norwich. Good morning, Barry.
Good morning, Mark. Simon, how are you?
Very well. Happy Saturday. What's happening in Norwich this morning? What are you up to, Baz?
Well, I'm taking my youngest daughter out for her 17th birthday later, so I shall be adding to the economy.
Oh, well, God bless you for that. Well, I hope you can give her a brilliant day. She's got a smashing dad. She's a lucky girl. What about this Mandelson story? Now, the Prime Minister said at the time that he regrets believing Mandelson's lies. Turns out the two men never spoke.
Well, I think Keir Starmer, when he speaks in that legal speak like barristers and solicitors do, where he tries to confuse people with just a monumental word salad, where he says a lot but says nothing. Yeah, and I don't understand why Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has not been put on a plane and sent over to America to face the FBI. And I don't understand why Peter Mandelson is still walking around and hasn't been charged with anything. How Ghislaine Maxwell is the only person to be locked up through all this is just unreal.
I don't agree. I agree, Barry. You've got a very good list of people that really should have their collar felt. Mandelson, Mountbatten Windsor, Bill Gates, Clinton, There are plenty of people who are answerable, Barry, but not at the moment facing any kind of censure. Stay with us, Barry. Your reaction there, Simon, to what Barry's had to say.
Barry's exactly right there, isn't he? There's obviously other perpetrators in all of this. There wasn't just Epstein. Where are the male perpetrators that have committed crimes? And, you know, people like Mandelson and Andrew, they speak about the victims and apologise to the victims, etc., as does Starmer. But then they refuse to go to the US and give evidence to Congress about it to try and help them.
I mean, it's absurd, that, as Barry said, Simon, that the only person in prison is a woman. A woman.
Yeah.
Who had absolutely no sexual interest in this story whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she's committed some crimes in terms of
course.
Yeah, in terms of trafficking the girls and recruiting them and things. But nevertheless, it is peculiar that no man involved in this, with the exception of Epstein, have been put in prison.
Barry, I've got a question for you regarding the Prime Minister. You mentioned his legal background. So which is it, Barry? Is the Prime Minister a lawyer or a liar?
I think he's both, and because most lawyers are. Yeah, I just don't understand why in the Houses of Parliament you can't call somebody a liar. Yeah, if they're not telling the truth, they're lying to you. It's as simple as that. And Mr. Morality Starmer literally fall for the head of Boris Johnson. Yeah.
Oh, because Boris Johnson stood near a glass of orange juice during the pandemic. That was his great crime, wasn't it?
Yeah, and, you know, he was calling for his head. He was Mr. Morality. He was shouting, screaming at him. And this just gets darker and deeper and darker, this whole scandal. And I just think they're all up to their necks in it, to be honest with you. And I think Mandelson has a lot of dirt on Starmer and a lot of dirt on other people. Yeah.
I think you might be well be right about that. He knows where the bodies are buried. Barry, do you agree with Simon Danchuk that actually this Mandelson scandal is so corrosive that Starmer will not survive it?
Well, I think Starmer should have gone ages ago, but I just think I don't even know how he's still there, to be honest with you. But he just seems to be there. He just seems to come through it. I just want him out. I want the whole government out, to be frank. Yeah, right. I just think, you know, that what did he say when he first came to power? He's going to clean up politics and get rid of the sleaze. It's been full of sleaze and scandals, one scandal after another since he's been in power.
Well, we've had so much scandal, Barry. Let's not forget Freebiegate. The Prime Minister is a multimillionaire who allowed a donor to pay for his glasses, concert tickets and suits. We had the Smash the Gangs policy, which has seen illegal immigration increase, Barry. We've had the Party of Working People, which has brought back the old enemy of unemployment, so they're not working. Zero growth in January. There isn't one good thing to say about this administration, is there?
No, it's just. I just dread to think what the country's going to be like in 3 years, and whoever gets in power, and I hope that it's going to be reform. But if they get in power, they're going to have such an unruly mess to clean up. It's going to take probably 2 terms of Parliament to clean up.
Barry, you and I are so allied, because I've said in the past that I think what reform would need is a massive majority, and they'll need 10 years. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I mean it's going to be an absolute mess. But I just want someone in power who's going to put the rights of the British people first, and not immigrants and illegal immigrants.
Barry, do you worry that if Prime Minister Nigel Farage goes into number 10, that he'll let people down?
I mean, you know, I've had this discussion with people before. Yeah, of course, there's a little bit there. Yeah, but he's never been in power. They've never been given a chance before. I don't like what Reform have done by taking on loads of ex-Tories, to be honest with you. I mean, the place is like a retirement home for Tories. But you've got to give these people a chance, haven't you? They've never been in power before. So, and if they don't do what they say, then we'll kick them out, don't we? Do you know what I mean? As simple as that.
Well, it can't be worse than this lot, can it? Barry, before you go, do you wish to share your daughter's name so we can give her a big up on her birthday?
My daughter's name is Leah.
Oh, lovely, Leah. Leah, happy birthday. You've got a great dad who talks a lot of sense. Hope you have a nice time this afternoon. Baz, God bless you for that. Thank you for your call. Thank you, Barry. We'll speak soon. Well, what a call from Barry. Barry speaks for millions. And he's talking about reform, and he's implying that they're not the finished product, but actually what we need is a change, and definitely Reform is the change candidate at the next election.
Yeah, and it's their outlook, though, isn't it? That's what we judge them by. It's their mindset. Is it the same as what's gone before, or is it different? And I think in Farage, in Richard Tice, you know, in Lee Anderson and other leaders within Reform, they would prioritise what Barry believes in, what I believe in, probably what you believe in. You know, the need to crack down on illegal immigration, tougher on criminals, cutting benefits. You know, these are priorities for Britain. And I think we would see a lot less hypocrisy, because that's what Barry was talking about as well, isn't it? And in terms of Starmer, the hypocrisy from Starmer has just been incredible. As soon as he came in power, all the freebies, the double standards are just incredible.
They really are, aren't they? It's quite shocking. Sean in Gloucester, good morning, Mark. Knowing how much Keith Starmer lies, surely every case he worked on as a lawyer needs to be re-looked at. Joanna in Salisbury, good morning, Mark. Starmer was either told to make Mandelson the American ambassador, or if he says he asked Mandelson, he either asked him to his face or on WhatsApp. Well, we know, don't we, Joanna, that he did not speak to Mandelson before that appointment. Colin, let's not forget, in the Epstein files, an ex-British Prime Minister had a threesome with Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. Let's dig that one out, guys. And let's see, what else do we have? Oh, yeah, interesting one from Michael. Good morning, Mark and Simon. Do we have a sociopath as Prime Minister? Should all members of the Cabinet be mentally tested before being appointed? The problem you got there, Simon, is if you were looking for the crazies in the House of Commons, it would pretty much be empty if you got rid of them, wouldn't it?
There's some truth in that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, politicians, they're not normal people, are they?
No, and I've been a politician. You know, you have to be a certain kind of person to want to stand it, and it is a tough job if you do it properly. But the intake in 2024, I think, has brought in a strange crowd of people. I do believe that, and predominantly Labour MPs. I don't think a lot of them were ready or anticipated.
They're not high calibre, are they?
No, I think we've. Perhaps for various reasons, social media, the challenge from the mainstream media. I think it's a tough job to do. The scrutiny is very tough, but no, the caliber's not been there.
Talk Breakfast is the home of voice notes. Let's take a lovely voice note from a very good friend of mine, Anna in Surrey.
Good morning, Mark. Anna, Surrey. So I'm standing here in my house in Surrey with my log burners that cost me nothing. And this morning, as I dragged my bin out to praise be, the bin men will collect it, I suddenly wondered, why am I paying my council tax? And what I would say to people out there, I'm not trying to instigate some sort of violent uprising, but why are we paying these idiots? We don't actually have to. And what if we all, Monday morning, step outside of our doors and stop paying them? We don't have to fight. We don't have to be abusive. We just stop paying them, and we don't pay anything again until they're gone. Nobody has to get upset. Nobody has to be rude to the police. We all just cancel our direct debit. Really easy. Let me know what you think, Mark. Bye-bye.
Well, Anna, what a well thought through voice note that is. And what Anna represents there is the growing sense that we do not consent to those who govern us. And that's a problem for our democracy, isn't it, Simon?
I feel Anna's frustration there, actually.
She's right.
Yeah, she's totally right. We've ended up with a Labour government by default. That's the truth of it. You know, Starmer, soon after the July 2024 general election, tried to say, oh, we've got a huge majority. It's a loveless majority. The public didn't buy into it at all.
And the voting system was very kind to Labour, because the popular vote-wise, it was in the toilet.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the numbers that were supporting Labour are minimal. I think it's the lowest number of voters for any general election ever. Starmer
got 3 million fewer voters supporting him at the election than Corbyn did in 2017.
Yeah.
3 million less.
Yes, yeah. This was not 1997 when Tony Blair came to power. Quite the opposite. And so people are exceptional, like Anna, are very frustrated. And our system doesn't allow for any change for up to 5 years. But I think we will see some change. I think after May, I think Starmer will go. But of course, we'll end up with another Labour Prime Minister.
Rachel Reeves insults Donald Trump. That's next. 6:51 Talk Breakfast.
welfare.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:53, lovely to have your company. The star columnist at the Daily Express, JJ Anasiobi, live in the studio today at 8 o'clock. Can't wait for that. A very special Dolan's Dispatch and a Talk Breakfast exclusive, the scandal of migration in Bournemouth, a once happy seaside town, now riven with anger, crime and public worry. So we'll get all of that coming. Also, a legend of Talk, Peter Bleksley, former top cop, of course, live at 7 a.m. alongside former Labour MP and now Reform UK supporter Simon Danchuk. Simon, let's talk about Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. By the way, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because we just took a call there and our caller was just saying that he was surprised that the Prime Minister was still in post. It's amazing that the Chancellor is still in number 11, isn't it?
It really is. You asked me earlier whether I knew Starmer. I knew Rachel Reeves a little bit better. We came into Parliament in 2010 at the same time, so I got to know her a little bit. And I always took her at the time to be a very studious, serious politician who was cut out to, you know, to be Shadow Chancellor and then Chancellor. But my judgment's was completely wrong. She's been found wanting on a number of levels, and yet she's inextricably linked to Starmer, isn't she? I think if she did have to go, then so would Starmer. I think they're so closely connected.
Well, what's gone wrong with Rachel Reeves? If she was a promising politician, and I don't doubt your judgment, where has she gone wrong, do you think?
Well, I just don't think she's been up to the job. I think I misread the situation.
Out of her depth?
Yeah, I think she's been out of her depth. So when she's come to power, when she's finally got her hands on the levers of power after the general election, she's made a series of mistakes, starting with the winter fuel allowance,
the winter fuel, yeah.
National insurance raise, which has killed employment opportunities for people, and on it's gone, one mistake after another.
Yeah, I mean, if you were in the House of Commons now as a Labour MP, you'd be considering defection, wouldn't you?
Oh, without a doubt. I said that on social media the other day, actually, that I struggle to be a Labour MP in this situation. I mean, the Labour Party is not what it used to be. It's now this North London left-wing Labour elite led by Starmer.
It's a middle-class party, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's all about college lecturers, lawyers, social workers. Used to be a party of workers. That's where the name came from, Labour. But it's a million miles away from that.
Well, what about this extraordinary story, Simon? And it's about your old mate, Rachel Reeves. Brexit has not been good, she says. We should align more with the EU. Well, she loves to blame everyone except herself. So she blamed Donald Trump's tariffs for inflation. She's already started to blame the Iran war, even though that wasn't happening in January when we had zero growth. She's blamed the Tories for an imaginary £20 billion black hole. And, of course, she's blamed Brexit as well. She didn't mention Brexit for years, and then suddenly last year she mentioned Brexit. I don't know what's next. The Battle of Hastings? The French Revolution?
She needs to take responsibility, doesn't she, for what's gone wrong?
Do you think the Stone Age is a factor? We're still paying the price, aren't we, for the Stone Age?
There's some truth in this.
I mean, this is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, totally ridiculous. I mean, nobody believes it. I mean, she's shot through. And, employers and businesses just don't buy into it. I was speaking to to a business the other day, and they're up to ear with the economy and the way that the economy is being run by Rachel Reeves.
Well, this lady, and I don't like to indulge by talking too much about my personal life, but I'm on the phone to the lady from the phone company, and I'm upgrading my contract, and she just said, you know, this is a young woman. She's at a call centre. She's not going to be making a huge amount of cash, is she? I don't know what her annual salary would be. Could be ballpark 30, 35K.
I was going to say 30,000.
Something like that, which is, these days, not a lot of money. And she said that everything's going up. She can't believe it. And she even mentioned taxes. Now, that's interesting, because the left will have you believe that the only folk moaning about taxes are rich entrepreneurs and the wealthy. It's not true. You've now got ordinary people at the bottom end of the economic ladder who are talking about how much they're being taxed.
Yeah.
That's a moment, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. They can really feel it, can't they? And they're wondering where the money's going. That's the flip side of it, isn't it? What is the money being spent on? And it's being spent on benefit claimants, illegal immigrants coming into the country, freebies for these people, and people are unhappy about it.
And of course, as we reported earlier, a charity that supports the Iranian regime that we've been giving a tax break to, £500,000. What about, though, the latest from Rachel Reeves in an interview with the Times newspaper, in which she's asked to choose Ursula von der Leyen, who's the head of the EU Commission, or Donald Trump as her preferred person to work with. She chooses von der Leyen.
Yeah, madness. And well, the relationship between Britain and America is just shot through, isn't it? Not least from Reeves there with that comment, but also from Starmer and his relationship with Donald Trump. I mean, it's been disastrous, and yet these have been the strongest ally that we've relied on for the defence of our country for many years.
And the American economy is twice the size of the EU economy. They were level pegging 20 years ago, by the way. So America's outgrown EU by 100%. But Rachel chooses a dying economic bloc.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because that was an opportunity to repair her relationship with America. She could say, look, I back Donald Trump all the way. Trump might have got that and be like, quite like the Chancellor. But no. Once again, grabbing, what is it, defeat from the jaws of victory?
Always. And we're sending King Charles there next month.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly, to do the job.
Simon sticking around, more to come.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 7, top of the morning. Fantastic to have your company. Mark Dolan, Talk Breakfast, a very big show coming up. And breaking as we come on air, a world exclusive in the Sun newspaper reveals that 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. So that's almost half of all the new homes built in this country this decade will go to migrants. Meanwhile, a further 1.2 million people are expected to pour into the country over the next 4 years. Did anyone vote for this? Meanwhile, fury as Rachel Reeves slams Brexit as she chooses Ursula von der Leyen over Donald Trump and pushes for a return to Brussels. Speaking of the US president, could Donald Trump sink the Chagos Islands giveaway? We got the latest. And in a Talk Breakfast exclusive, we've got a shocking report on the migrant crisis engulfing Bournemouth. A once idyllic English seaside town is now a hotbed of fear, crime and public anger. Plus, was the Prime Minister lying about what he knew in regard to Peter Mandelson, appointed to the top job in British diplomacy? It's all about your opinions. My phone number is 03444991000. I'm delighted to say the brilliant Faith is taking your calls today, so give Faith a call. Book your place on the show. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222. And Talk Breakfast is the home of the voice note. So do leave us a voice note. Let's get your opinions on the radio and on the telly. You can hear us on DAB+, in-app and online. Or you can watch the show. Just head over to YouTube and search Talking Up We Pop, as the saying goes. Let's talk. And let's do so in the company of two very good friends of mine. Simon Danchuk, former Labour MP and Reform defector, and Peter Blexley, former Met Police detective. Gentlemen, great to have you in the studio. Front pages, if you're just joining us. Daily Telegraph, Trump to take Strait by force. That's the Strait of Hormuz. One of the more serious implications of this war in Iran is global energy supply, which could cause a recession and spike inflation. Well, let's hope Donald's right that this will be a short war. Also, Mandelson vetted for US role by his disgraced friend. And the big photo of the day, the Prince, the paedophile and PT. Peter Mandelson, Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, all captured in a very compromising image with Epstein fully dressed. Meanwhile, Andrew and Mandelson in shower robes with damp hair. What a shocking look. What an embarrassing moment for not just our royal family, but also our politics as well. The Times newspaper, Reeves promises help as war pushes up energy bills. And Daily Mail, Starmer's dereliction of duty. An astonishing picture emerges of Andrew Epstein and Mandelson. Prime Minister admits he never personally questioned the Labour peer over his links to the paedophile before making him US ambassador. Well, lots of stories to go at. And Peter Blexley, can I talk to you about the fact that we've got this hate march tomorrow, which has been banned? This, of course, is a march in support of the wicked Iranian regime, but there's still going to be a very strong police presence.
Yes, there is. And this comes about because there is an anomaly in the law in that you can ban a march, and that, of course, has been done, but static protest cannot be banned. And there is, of course, a very strong argument that static protest needs to be protected as part of our rights as being a flagship democracy. So it will happen tomorrow. I sincerely hope that an order is put in place that face coverings cannot be worn, so that the police will be able to film everybody at this march and thereby identify them. I don't think that's draconian. I don't think that's an erosion of people's civil liberties. I think if you go on a march in support of a bloodlusting regime that murders thousands of its own people, and that's the type of thing you want to support, then the very least that should happen is that your image can be captured and you can be identified for future possible investigation.
Simon Danchuk, what does it say about our country that so many people would like to take to the streets this weekend to support the biggest global sponsor of terror and arguably the most wicked regime since the Third Reich?
I think a lot of it relates to immigration, doesn't it? The fact that we've allowed people to come into this country and settle and have a worldview that is in many respects opposite to what most British people would have. You know, and it also relates to multiculturalism, this idea that we've allowed, which I think has been a complete failure in Britain, allowing people to have whatever view, not integrated into the culture of Britain at all. We've got to remember this is a Christian country. We have to celebrate that, but we have a large proportion of people here, not just Muslim people, but people on the left, on the far left, who for some bizarre reason want to celebrate countries like Iran, draconian countries like Iran. I find it bizarre.
It is bizarre, and you know as well as I do, Peter, as a former Met Police detective, that these protests every week are a huge drain on police resources. It means that cops cannot be investigating burglaries, stabbings and sexual assaults.
Mr. Dolan, I thank you very much for highlighting this extremely important point. All the more reason this weekend and every day for people who live in the London suburbs, people who live in other boroughs within the Metropolitan Police area, to make great steps this weekend to ensure that you do not have your house burgled, you do not have your car stolen, and you do not get robbed of your mobile phone, for example, because in all likelihood, this weekend, particularly tomorrow, there won't be police officers that can come to your aid. So we have to look after ourselves, because they will be in central London policing those who support a murderous regime that kills thousands of its own people. And while I'm on this note, if I may, how ironic that this country is led by a human rights lawyer in Starmer, a human rights lawyer in the Attorney General, neither of whom would support military action by our greatest ally against the biggest abuser, arguably, of human rights on the planet. How absolutely bizarre. What an irony.
Peter, you're absolutely right. And it's worse than that. You've got a Prime Minister that boasts to British Muslims in Parliament that he did not support this action against Iran. And I'm pretty confident that if it's a short war, then this will age very well for Donald Trump and be a fantastic part of his legacy. Simon Danchuk, on that policing side of it, it's worth pointing out, isn't it, that we've not just got this hate march tomorrow, which has been banned, but it'll be a static march, which is very similar. We've had years now of these so-called peace marches following October the 7th, and the cost to the taxpayer runs into the tens of millions of pounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And Peter speaks a lot of sense in terms of politics as well as policing. It's not sustainable for us to be able to keep paying for this. And it's not just about the money, it is about the policing, isn't it? And taking officers away from other duties. I don't know why this government and the previous government were happy to allow so many protests to take place, particularly in relation to Palestine.
Simon, we've been indulging extremists, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been overly tolerant for far too long. Absolutely right. And you know, I find it amazing, actually, that we don't have legislation that can't stop this immobile protest taking place.
I agree.
I was surprised to even learn that a static protest can still take place. We're overly tolerant. Many other countries would just not act like this.
Does that strike you as a loophole that's being exploited, that static marches are allowed, Peter?
Well, to a certain extent, if we are going to argue about the right to free speech, to protest, to take to the streets and express your views, then I think the static protest probably should be allowed. But as Mr. Danchuk highlights, it is a very, very huge indicator of how far this country has slid by allowing so many of these people who will be there tomorrow into the country. They hate Great Britain. They detest democracy. They would like to see all three of us and all your audience wiped from the face of the earth and replaced by a regime the like of which is in Iran at the moment. So if that's what they want, if that's what they desire, should they really be anywhere near our once great nation? I would argue they should not be.
Well, definitely. We've imported the enemy, haven't we, Peter? Because the people at that static march tomorrow, if that's not a contradiction in terms, are people that support a regime, Peter and Simon, that calls America the great Satan and calls the United Kingdom the little Satan. Peter, can I take you to another story? It's a world exclusive in The Sun, breaking as we speak. 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house immigrants. Your reaction?
To all the young people in this country who feel hard done by with considerable justification, their ambitions in terms of property ownership, getting decent paid jobs and the such like might simply never be met. Ditch your left-wing nonsense, woke ideology. Wake up, smell the coffee, look at what is happening in this country. 40% of new builds are going to go to immigrants. They could have been communities that you might have been able to purchase your house, raise your children, have a neighbourhood that you loved, adored, looked out for, cherished, and raise your kids within. That is all now being denied you by this woke nonsense, left-wing poison that has got into our society like Japanese knotweed, and it needs stripping out.
And the problem, Simon, is the impact on young people. They have no hope now, certainly no hope of a foot on the housing ladder because of open borders.
Yes, absolutely right. And, you know, there's often assumption, especially with Labour as well, you know, reducing voting rights to 16-year-olds, that young people will be on the left. Now, there are a proportion of young people on the left, but from my experience, and I think from some opinion polling, young people are really turning to the centre-right because of these types of issues, quite rightly so. I think Labour should be careful what they wish for in terms of young people voting. I think people are really annoyed. Young people are annoyed about illegal immigration, about the fact that they can't get on the housing ladder, about the fact that, you know, many jobs are low paid and that there aren't always jobs around for that matter. So I think Labour should be careful what they wish for on this issue.
Meanwhile, a story that has slipped below the radar, gentlemen, is another figure from this Sun exclusive. Peter, a further 1.2 million people are expected to pour into the country over the next 4 years. I doubt they're all doctors, engineers and brain surgeons.
Well, of course, the whole myth about how immigration is positive for the economy has been blown apart and found to be baseless. Immigration is now costing this country an absolute fortune. So many people are arriving in this country and thereafter having a life on benefits. They're not contributing to the economy.
You're right, Peter, because even if they work as low-skilled workers, that is a net cost to the taxpayer because they have in-work benefits. They'll be dependent on the state for the rest of their life, even if they work.
Absolutely right. So that myth, that lie that we were all sold by the left-wingers has been absolutely dismantled. And consequently, this is going to be yet another drain on our failing economy. And let's just remember, because it went under the radar, in 7 days, there was a 7-day stretch that ended 3 days ago. 1,200 illegal migrants came into this country on small boats via 18 dinghies. It goes on and on and on. Some people on the left of politics in this country will not be satisfied until we are all equally skint and this country bears no resemblance to what it used to be.
Simon Danchuk, you're hopeful of a Reform victory at the next election. You may even be participating yourself. Let's watch this space. Notwithstanding that, is Britain fixable in 3 years' time?
Oh, I think there's going to be a lot to do. I think Starmer is deliberately pushing his agenda as much as he possibly can whilst he's got the reins of power. So after 3 further years of a Labour government, I think there's going to be so much to do. You pointed out earlier, you know, reform's going to need 10 years to put this right at the very least. And they've got to come into government with a strong plan. Happily, they're working on policy as we speak, and that's to be celebrated. But it's going to be tough. There's no doubt about that.
Simon, before we let you go, last week in the studio, we welcomed the former editor of the News of the World, one of the most experienced journalists in the country, Neil Wallace. And he said that, contrary to public opinion, he thinks that Starmer may turf it out and may actually stay as Labour leader until the next election. Is there a chance that we are stuck with this man?
There is a possibility of that. I've heard other people come to that conclusion, believing that he can just ride it out.
Because there's no obvious candidate that unites the party, right?
Yeah, exactly, that's correct. But the May elections are going to be absolutely devastating for Labour. If he can survive after that, then he probably has a full term to go. That is a possibility, I'm sorry to say.
Simon, it's always the deepest privilege to have you in the studio. Thank you for a fantastic hour. I know you've got a busy day ahead. Popping to church with the missus?
Yes, absolutely.
A bit of shopping as well?
Onto the market.
It's got to be done. Listen, Simon Danchuk's a man of means. Let me tell you, folks, the drinks are on him. Simon, have a good one. We'll catch up soon. Lovely to have you in the studio. The formidable Peter Blexley is staying with us. It's 7:19. Next up, the Chancellor insults Donald Trump and wants to reverse Brexit. That's next.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say.
So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically?
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm delighted to say at 7:22 On Talk Breakfast, we are joined by Peter Blexley, former Met Police detective. And we've got a call, Peter, from Anne in Gwynedd on the Al-Quds hate protest, which is happening in London tomorrow. Anne, should this be going ahead? It's been banned as a march, but they're going to have a static protest, which I think is very similar.
Well, I don't agree with them anyway. But my thought is we've got drones, we have facial recognition. Why not? You can't do it straight away tomorrow. Collect them up, take DNA, fingerprints, facial recognition, and then herd them up over the week and send them to Iran. If they support it, send them back. It's that simple.
Well, you're so right, Anne, because it's just worth reminding ourselves that anyone that supports Iran is supporting a regime which would like to see not just the destruction of Israel and the death of all Jews, but the destruction of the West and the elimination of the United Kingdom.
Well, also, I've just seen the View. You've got a lot of young white people there. Well, I think those are the ones that have got dwarfs, which are degree without any useful purpose.
Yeah.
Which I think is
They've
brilliant.
been to the University of Cumbria and they've done 3 years of jam making.
Well, yes, I mean, it beggars belief.
One of those Mickey Mouse degrees.
Yeah, well, why can't they, as a punishment, be sent to an army barracks and do 6 weeks basic training? They might be educated, they might be fit, and they might have better things to think about.
Yes, and of course, what might happen in a military setting, Anne, is they might learn some common sense.
Exactly. And one more thing. You know, Starmer is blaming it on everybody but himself. But when my little ones were little and they used to say, it wasn't me, we used to blame it on Mr. Nobody. Why can't he start doing that? Well,
Anne, that's a very good point. Can I ask you about the character of our Prime Minister? Because a caller earlier said that the problem that we've got with him is he's just such a lawyer. But my question this morning, is he a lawyer or a liar?
Well, I think he's a liar, and I think the general public can tell that because he'd be brilliant to play poker with, I think, because you know when he's lying because his eyes go wide. He's like a rabbit in the headlights.
I totally agree. He's not a very good liar.
I'm too much of a lady on television to tell me exactly what I think of Mr. Starmer.
It would be unbroadcastable, wouldn't it? And briefly, before I let you go, are we stuck with him? Because Neil Wallace, the former editor of the News of the World, told me last week that he may actually survive until the next election.
Well, he's so thick-skinned. To be honest, I don't understand how he can stay, but I think he probably will. But I feel sorry whoever gets into, if it is reform, they've got a hell of a job, and they've just got to be honest and tell the general public that it's going to be difficult, because whoever gets in, he's leaving them with a minefield, isn't he?
I agree. I really hope that if it's Nigel Farage as our next Prime Minister, Anne, that he manages expectation and explains to the country what an enormous challenge lies ahead. Fabulous call, Anne. Call me again soon. Have an excellent Saturday. Peter Blexley, a lot of common sense there from Anne. What do you make of her remarks about anyone supporting this Iranian regime tomorrow should actually be, essentially the police should take note of who they are, get their information?
Or, as Anne said, round them all up and fly them over to Iran. Could you imagine it? They would be squealing like stuck pigs, because if they went to Iran, they probably wouldn't be able to have their lentils, they probably wouldn't be able to get any blue hair dye, and they probably wouldn't be able to read The Guardian. So they really wouldn't want to go.
Well, do you think they would be able to bring their gay husband along with them, though? That would be all right, wouldn't it?
Yes, and they'd be led straight up to the roof of a 13-story tower block and thrown off it. That's what they'd get in Iran. These people are here just abusing. But Anne does make the point, and you built on it, about university and degrees. One of the organisers of tomorrow's march is a course leader at Middlesex University. And he is out there. He will be there tomorrow promoting this murderous Iranian regime. So whatever you do, kids, in my opinion, do not go to the University of Middlesex.
And briefly, Peter, it's not just that we're allowing this static march to happen, which is an insult to our democracy. we're paying for the privilege of supporting the charity that's organised it. The Islamic Human Rights Commission, IHRC, which should be prescribed as a terror organisation, has in fact had a £500,000 tax break from the British taxpayer.
Well, if I might just correct you a little bit on that, if I may.
Go.
There were donations of some £500,000, and consequently they were allowed to claim £106,000 in gift aid.
Yeah.
We gave that money to that organisation.
Amazing.
Your taxes, my taxes, your audience's taxes. Whereas that organisation should be prescribed and should have no place in the United Kingdom whatsoever. I take you back to my point earlier about how this left-wing ideology has infiltrated every part of our nation like Japanese knotweed. And everybody knows how difficult that is to strip it out, to kill it, and to make sure that it never comes back.
Ellie in Gosport has messaged the show. Hi, Mark. Great show this morning. Love to hear Peter Blexley on the programme talking so much sense. I went to see his show in Portsmouth this week and it was really entertaining and interesting. A great insight into his career and serious crime in this country. I would highly recommend for people to go along to one of his shows. Please pass this on. My thanks to Peter. Ellie, thank you for that. Peter, how's the tour going?
Very good, thank you. I was in Harpenden last night. I'll be performing in Jersey on Tuesday night, and then it's Stourbridge, Stoke, and many other places throughout the UK. So please get your tickets because it's selling out, and it'll be lovely to see people.
It's wonderful. How are you dealing with the groupies?
They are wonderful. So many people. If I get the opportunity to do a meet and greet after the show, people are coming up to me and saying, "We love hearing you on Talk," which is always very, very nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something. If you think Mick Jagger's dressing room is busy after the show, Blexley, hold my beer. Peter, I want to ask you about a question of character here, because I think we need to look not just at the politics of Starmer and his claims that he was lied to by Peter Mandelson, even though he actually never spoke to Mandelson before the appointment as UK ambassador to America. You've got the politics, you've got the character too. You're an expert in smelling lies and sussing out, somebody that's not being honest. Now, what do you make of the character of the Prime Minister in relation to this Mandelson story? What does it tell us about his ethics and his values and his morality?
Starmer took a gamble and he knew exactly what he was doing. He's lied to the nation repeatedly ever since, but he took a gamble. He put his crony before his country. He basically thought he'd never get found out. And all of Starmer's apologies are basically because he got caught, not because of, "Oh, I'm sorry to the victims," and all that disgusting, insulting drivel that he comes out with. He got caught out. He took a gamble and he lost. It just goes to show that this man has absolutely no place in leading the country. He is bereft of a moral compass. He is absolutely appalling. And let's just look one day this week, if we may, at what his left-wing lunatic government did in one day. They abolished jury trials, an 800-year-old system. For thousands and thousands of people, they've abolished it. They reinforced their commitment to compulsory digital ID, and they brought in backdoor blasphemy laws to protect their ideological lunatic Muslim friends. That was on one day. If Vladimir Putin had had a day like that with his government, he'd have needed a large vodka and a cold compress.
Peter, before I let you go, I'm cautiously supportive of Donald Trump's efforts to disarm Iran. That's why I'm supportive, but with caution. Has Donald Trump bitten off more than he can chew?
Iran must never, and I repeat, never have a nuclear capability. I am supportive of anybody that takes action to ensure that that never happens.
A straight answer to a straight question. Peter, continued success with the tour. We'll see you very, very soon. A legend of this network, former Met Police detective, and of course, the king of common sense, Peter Bleksley. Thank you, Peter. Have an excellent Saturday. Best wishes to you and yours. Here's a voice note from Pete. Take it away, Pete.
At this point in time, this war highlights that we should be going after each and every source of power to keep this country going, especially over the winter as we get, because it's cold. It's especially cold this morning as well. So, you know, if we've got a nice fire on the go, that'd be fine. Well, you can't just stop producing fossil fuels overnight in order for some crackpot idea that we're going to run off solar panels and little wind props, because it just isn't going to happen. And anybody that thinks that shouldn't be in any part of government whatsoever, especially if their name's Ted Sillyband. Well, you know, Saturday morning now, and I'm still surprised that old Feathers McGraw the Penguin still hasn't resigned as Prime Minister because of this week's scandal, lies, scandal, lies, lies, scandal, scandal. That's all it ever is. Can someone name me a day in the last year even that has been a clean day where there hasn't been lies coming out from the Labour government and the Prime Minister?
No, there isn't. And I've been either on air or studying the news every day of this government, Pete, because, you know, in this job, I have to stay on top of things. So if I'm not on air, I'm still reading, still listening to the radio, still watching TV shows, podcasts, all the rest of it. They haven't had a good day. The only positive story that Starmer had was that for a while he was the Trump whisperer because he was so far up his backside. He became quite orange for a little while, Keir Starmer. But even that he's destroyed by not supporting America in its war on Iran. So, Pete, no, there's been no good days for this government. What about our national state broadcaster? Has the BBC learnt anything from the Hugh Edwards scandal? This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 7:35. Have the BBC learnt anything from the Hugh Edwards scandal? Well, Channel 5 have made a drama about this scandal, and I'll tell you, it does not paint the corporation in the best possible light. Davis, I think we've got a clip, have we? Let's take a listen.
Martin Clune stars in Power, the downfall of Hugh Edwards. Watch, stream on 5.
Well, Robin Aitken is the author of Can We Trust the BBC? Lovely to have you on the show, Robin. Well, this is an unfortunate reminder of a very dark scandal for the BBC, and it doesn't cover them in glory, does it?
No, Mark, you're right. I mean, I don't know if the BBC has learnt anything from the Hugh Edwards episode. What I hope they've learned is that when people inside the BBC make complaints about big stars, they're taken more seriously than they were in the Hugh Edwards case. Because I think, actually, if you're looking at the culpability of the BBC, one of the points about what happened with Edwards was there had been actually quite a lot of complaints made to the bosses about Edwards and his behaviour. I don't know the exact nature of those complaints, but they were about bullying, I think about inappropriate behaviour in certain ways. Nothing was done. And the point is that actually something should have been done. Those complaints should have been taken more seriously. And who knows, if they had been, and if Edwards had been chastised or disciplined in some way, perhaps a shot across his bows would have saved him from himself. Because the whole point about this is that, you know, his own frailty, led on by this other bloke who sent him some filthy pictures, led to his downfall. It's a tragedy in a way, but one man's tragedy is another man's TV drama.
Most definitely. And I can actually give credit to the BBC, Robin, for having themselves actually reported on allegations around Hugh Edwards, particularly the Newsnight programme and the excellent Victoria Derbyshire. So there are departments within the BBC that have actually held the corporation to account, and their interrogation of the Hugh Edwards story, which was condemned at the time by some, has obviously aged very well. But it's astonishing that this happened in a corporation that was responsible for the Savile scandal. It's amazing that the culture didn't change after what happened with Jimmy Savile.
Well, you know, Mark, I mean, it's I've been thinking about Hugh Edwards since you invited me on to talk about it, and I take no pleasure really in this whole saga. I mean, the point is that, you know, if this had been Mr. Nobody, Johnny Nobody, who'd done what Edwards had done, it wouldn't have made the Sun. It would have made the local newspaper, if that. But the point is that when you're a big star, when you are a celebrity, as Hugh Edwards was, after all, he was one of the most recognizable faces in the country because of his prominence on the BBC. When you're in that position, I think what happens is that people then feel themselves almost to be invulnerable.
Yes.
And, you know, they throw their weight around. In fact, what happens when you're in that situation is that if you put a foot wrong and if you're found out, then the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. You're actually more vulnerable because you're a super celeb. And actually, you know, you can see this with Prince Andrew, can't you? His sense of entitlement. I mean, the poor fool felt that he was somehow, you know, above everybody and above all sort of public scrutiny. In fact, his very prominence has led him into this pit of public humiliation. And that's what happened with Hugh Edwards. By the way, don't you think it's amazing how Martin Clunes has carried off impersonating Edwards? I mean, he does look remarkably like him.
Yes, it's an incredible performance from the clips I've seen, and it will be an absorbing drama. And, you know, the BBC, they don't need this story coming back to be reminded of what happened, because it was such an awful time for their credibility. And I want to ask you, Robin, the Hugh Edwards scandal, was that sort of thing unique to the BBC and as a result of the BBC's culture, or could it have happened to any media organisation?
Well, Mark, if
I give you the easy questions.
If I was sitting where you're sitting and I was asking you that question, what would your answer be? I mean, the point is, look.
Yes and no would be the answer, I think. There are Romans in every industry, aren't there? But
of course
I just don't you think there's something about the BBC as an institution that tends to sort of close ranks when threatened?
Well, yeah, and look, the BBC. So here is a point, I think, actually, which you touch on, and I think the BBC finds it very difficult in all sorts of circumstances to think badly of itself. The problem is that the BBC, as an institution, and many of the individuals within it, think that they're always on the side of the angels. I mean, they don't. They find it inconceivable, you know, that they could be on the wrong side, as it were. And this is true of their news coverage. And all other aspects of their output. There's a sort of self-righteousness about the BBC because we're the BBC and we never get things wrong and everything we do is right, and etc. etc. We're wonderful people. We always think the right things. We're right-thinking people and we're always right. So the point is that actually does mean, I think, that there is a bit of perhaps an institutional blind spot when it comes to miscreants in the ranks. Hugh Edwards, after all, who could have thought that Hugh Edwards, of all people, would end up mired in this tacky and really rather disgusting little scandal. It's also tawdry, it's also squalid, the way that he was lured into this thing and then he exploited these young people. I mean, it's really pretty stomach-churning stuff. I think the BBC would have found it very difficult to have believed that he was involved in that kind of thing. And as I say, maybe this goes back to their own very high opinion of themselves.
Most definitely. What do you see as the future of the BBC, Robin? I'm not one of those people that want to tear it down. I think it's a globally respected brand and we own the IP. We've pumped billions into it over the years as licence fee taxpayers. It's our property. And of course, the BBC has made some great programmes and continues to do so. So how would you chart its future? What's your blueprint for this corporation to reinvent and survive?
I'm pleased to hear you say that, Mark, because I think that is your view is a very, if I may say so, without currying favour with you, I think that's a very sane viewpoint. Like you, I have no desire to see the BBC torn down. In fact, I'm not someone who wants to see institutions broken up, because actually, the institutional memory, in fact, the memory of the nation is our sort of collective memory. A big part of that is contained within the BBC, and I think it's an important institution in many ways. What I do think, though, is that it does need it needs to take reform of itself properly. And I'll tell you one thing which I do think the BBC should do and should do urgently, and that is it talks about making itself more accountable. It is not accountable. That's a big problem with the BBC. Anyone who has tangled with the BBC's complaints system, as I have, knows that actually the complaint system is a total farce. It's there designed entirely to fob people off and to protect the corporation's reputation. And actually, one important step which they could take quite quickly would be to put that complaint system, if you had a complaint about BBC bias or anything to do with the BBC, that should not go to the BBC itself. That should go to an outside body which says, we will properly investigate this and you will get a proper answer to your complaint. That's not what happens at the moment. So that's one thing I think. And I do believe that the BBC needs to listen more to its critics. Critics like me, for instance. I mean, I'm a critic of the BBC and I'm well known for being so, which is why I'm on your programme. But I do think the BBC always sees critics like me as the enemy. Do you know, we're not the enemy. In fact, what we're trying to do is save the BBC from itself. Listen to us and act on some of the proposals that we make, because we're not in the business, as you've just said and I've just acknowledged, of tearing the BBC down. We want to see the BBC do what it says it does. We want it to be the organisation that it says it is. And at the moment, there are glaring problems with it.
There most definitely are. What a wise assessment. Lovely to have you on the programme, Robin. Do join us again soon when your schedule allows. Robin Aitken is the author of Can We Trust the BBC? Have they learnt anything from the Hugh Edwards scandal? Well, Channel 5 are rubbing it in with this rather devastating new film, which is coming out shortly. A fresh headache for the King. We'll get reaction from his former butler next. 7:46, this is Talk Breakfast.
current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up. I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Have the BBC learnt anything from the Hugh Edwards scandal? Christina says, good morning, Mark. The BBC need to go subscription only. That would really prove if they are still required. And Sunny in Reading, the same thing. The BBC should be a subscription model. Let's see how they survive. If they think they're so wonderful, let the subscriptions show that. Well, at the moment, we pay them about £3 billion a year via the licence fee. There's no way that they would get that via subscriptions. I'm not even sure they'd get a third of that. And that would be fascinating, wouldn't it? Sue in Essex, good morning, Mark. Great show. Migrants. I have a 5-year-old grandson. He'll never be able to afford a house. Firms won't have the money to employ him. If he goes to university, he'll be brainwashed. God forbid he should want to drive a car. Lastly, will he be able to call himself a man? I'm sick of this government. Sue, you raised a lot of key issues there. And one of the big stories that we're breaking this morning is a world exclusive in the Sun newspaper revealing that 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. I'm going to get reaction from the Daily Express's star columnist, JJ Anasiobi, live in the studio at 8 a.m. A fresh headache for the King as a new photograph of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is published, part of the Epstein files. This time alongside the disgraced ex-financier and Peter Mandelson, the former UK ambassador to the United States. Let's get reaction to this story from the King's former butler, Grant Harold. Good morning, Grant.
Good morning, Mark.
King Charles is doing his very best to lead the country and the Commonwealth. He's our head of state. He wants to focus on cleaning up the environment. He wants to open hospital wings. He wants to tackle the major issues facing the country and the world. He wants to do good. And yet, every day, there's a fresh headline about his errant younger brother.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. I mean, unfortunately, the headlines for the royal family haven't been great for quite considerable time. And as you said, he must sometimes wake up and think, what's the next thing that's going to come out? And of course, this isn't really surprising because I think we're aware that there's going to be further pieces of information coming out about Andrew and his connection with Epstein. So it's not surprising to see this picture. And again, because it's historic, isn't it? I mean, I think this picture's from 26, 27 years ago. So we're going to get a lot of this kind of coming up. And that's just the reality of it. But again, you kind of feel sorry for the King, as you said, because he's obviously really trying to focus on the job at hand. But yet this still dominates, quite rightly, of course, it dominates the headlines.
Most definitely. And let's not forget that the King, your former boss, Grant, who I know you have great admiration and affection for, is still battling cancer.
Exactly. And I think that's what's really difficult, because somebody said to me recently, you know, he doesn't look that well. And I'm thinking, well, the amount he's been through over the last several months, including this, I mean, they always say, I mean, you know, aside, I've had family members that have gone through that awful disease. And, you know, the one thing they always say is try to reduce your stress. That's one of the biggest things.
Yes.
And of course, for him, he's got this stress adding on a daily basis. So that's why I really feel for him. That he's trying to do the job at hand. But of course, he's going to look exhausted when you've got all these things going on within your family and it's like trying to spin all these plates and do your work and keep an eye on your health at the same time.
It would be devastating, wouldn't it, Grant, if when he passes, which we can only pray is many years from now, his reign is defined and dominated by the behaviour of his younger brother Andrew and the absence of his youngest son, Harry, in the United States.
It's very unfortunate because, you know, with the greatest respect, all our monarchs, you know, obviously are known for certain reasons. I mean, you know, obviously, even if you're going back to the times of Henry VIII, you know, famous for his 6 wives, you know, Charles I executed. So, you know, Charles III, obviously he wants to be probably remembered for the work that he's done. And the reality is that since he become king, unfortunately, you know, we, like George VI, we're aware of, you know, this health battle. We've got as you said, the issues with the younger son. We've got the obviously the serious situation with his brother. And sadly, that does dominate. And I think, Matt, the problem is that's what history is going to look at is in the years to come. I think they're going to look back, and of course we're going to remember what an amazing Prince Wales he was, without any question. But there is going to be that reflection on his brother, on his younger son, and of course, you know, his health. I mean, the reality is even George VI, who's, you know, died in 1952, you know, we're all a lot of people are fully aware that obviously he battled cancer, and that was a big part, you know, and also had a stutter. And so we know these things from all those years ago. So what I'm trying to say with what's going on just now, unfortunately, these are things that he will obviously be part of his legacy.
Well, indeed, that's exactly right. And he's not able to do much more in relation to Andrew, is he? He's pulled every lever. Andrew's lost the membership of the Order of the Garter. He's no longer Prince Andrew. HRH went in 2020 when they signed a cheque to a reported $15 million to Virginia Giuffre. All the military honours, the charity work. You know, he's even lost the Royal Lodge. There's not much more the king can do. He is a hostage to misfortune. He's a passenger in this story now, Grant.
He really is. I mean, the only thing left, as a lot of people have commented, both on social media and through interviews, is the fact that he's still in the line of succession.
Is it number 8?
I think it's 7 or 8, yes. Yeah. And not only line of succession, he's still a councillor of state, which for anyone that doesn't understand what that means, is if the king was unable to fulfil his duties, members of the royal family, including, can I quickly add, his sister Princess Anne and his other brother Prince Edward, can step in his absence. So that's the whole point. So Andrew is one of those. Now, from what I understand, to change this and to change the line of succession is an act of Parliament. That's from what I understand. So, of course, that's something that may get debated. You know, the royal family are not supposed to be debated in Parliament, but of course now they've taken away his titles, it could get debated, so it's possible. I think the king has done all he can physically do at this moment in time, and I have no doubt that he probably has brought this conversation up with the Prime Minister about removing him from the line of succession, because I think the reality is they probably feel that is something that has to be done. But that will take, you know, I think that will take place in the coming months or even years. So it won't surprise me if somebody do get breaking news to say that he is being removed from the line of succession as well.
What do you imagine King Charles's feelings are towards Andrew these days? Would you imagine that their relationship as brothers is all but over?
I would have thought so. Do you know, it's difficult because I'm sure so many things are going through his head. I think the relationship, certainly, I think he'll be disappointed, 100%, knowing exactly how he thinks. He will absolutely be disappointed. He will feel let down. I think the problem is, Mark, and this is just my theory, this is not inside information, I have a gut feeling that when the king was with his mother towards the end of her life, I can imagine, because of the closeness of the Queen and Andrew, it's possible that maybe she asked him to, if you like, take care of him or kind of support him. And, you know, when you've got a parent that is dying and you make promises to them, it's very difficult, this is from personal experience, it's very difficult to then backtrack on that, because you're making someone's last wishes, you're respecting those. So I'm sure even though the king had to do what he's done, there's no two ways about it, I think that'll be really difficult for him, because, you know, he's having to, you know, at the end of the day, it's his brother, it's a family member, and he's having to distance himself and also be very careful as to how he does this, because he's aware of what the British public, what their opinions are.
Yeah, most definitely. Can we now get to the aforementioned Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex? They're planning a trip to Australia. How will this news go down in the palace, do you think?
Well, see, I'm under the impression that the king does speak to his father, so I think his father will be aware of it, which means and the palace, I'm sure, will be aware of it. Of course, this is unlike the visit they did several years ago, which was an official royal visit, I believe, just after the marriage, where this is obviously, you know, a private, what's classed as a private business trip, among other things. And from what I can also understand is that they're both doing different events, including Meghan's doing a Q&A, I believe, as well, which is going to be very interesting to see how that's done. I'm sure that'll be vetted very carefully. I think that's the kind of thing that maybe the palace might be a bit nervous about, because with a Q&A, you'd like to think the questions are all kind of approved in advance. They're not going to send those questions over to the palace, because remember, Harry and Meghan are a completely separate entity now to the palace, and they are no longer working members of the royal family. But the tiny problem is they are still members of the royal family. He still is the son of the king. So everything he says and does still reflects the crown.
Are the optics of these trips by Harry and Meghan around the world, you know, given that they're perceived as sort of fake royal trips, you know, is that by design, do you think, on the part of the Sussexes, or are they damned if they do and damned if they don't? They get on a plane, it's a fake royal tour.
Yeah, I think it's two things. I think you're right. I think it is damned if they do, damned if they don't. That's the reality of it. You know, even if people kind of think, oh, that's a nice thing he's doing, people are always going to think there's an alternative motive. And I think the reality is it is almost a bit of a PR thing, because obviously you've got the brand. They're trying to promote their work. They're trying to promote themselves. And, you know, this is them wanting to do what I always call it royal celebrity.
Well, there you go. I wish we had longer, Grant. Harry.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Two minutes past 8, top of the morning. Mark Dolan, Talk Breakfast. Happy Saturday one and all. Your weekend starts here, and breaking this morning in a world exclusive, the Sun newspaper revealed that 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. Meanwhile, a further 1.2 million people are expected to pour into the country over the next 4 years. Did anyone vote for this? Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves chooses Ursula von der Leyen over Donald Trump and pushes for a return to Brussels. So what are the consequences of that? And speaking of Donald Trump, could the president sink the Chagossian giveaway? The Chagos Islands, of course. Britain is trying to give them away. Can Trump stop it? Plus, in a Talk Breakfast exclusive, we have a shocking report on the migrant crisis engulfing Bournemouth, a once idyllic British seaside town, now a hotbed of fear, crime and public anger. My priority is to get your opinions on the radio and on the telly. So give us a call, and Faith is taking your calls. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. And reacting to the big stories of the day, I'm delighted to welcome live in the studio the Daily Express star columnist and host of the weekly, no it's not, it's daily Expresso show, JJ Anasiobi. JJ, good to see you.
You too, Marky Mark.
How many episodes are there of the Daily Expresso?
We've got 144, I believe now.
It's brilliant. And is it four a week?
5 a week,
Five
sir.
a week.
Monday to Friday, every single day at 5 p.m.
It's massive. You've had a gazillion views.
Yeah.
And why does the show work? Why are so many people watching the Daily Expresso?
You know, you can watch, there's so many political podcasts out there, and they're all very serious, very worthy.
Yeah.
Well, why did you do this? Gotcha moments. We're just chill. It's just, mate, you come on there on a Monday, it's just mates having a talk about what's going on. And whether it's me and Kemi Badenoch, or me and Liz Truss, or me and Mark Dolan, it's just a bit of fun. We ask them serious questions, we hold people to account, but in a nice, fun way so we can get more out of them.
Well, I have to say, it's absolutely the highlight of my week, coming to the Express building and doing the Daily Expresso with you on a Monday, because I have so much fun. You're a fair journalist. You let people speak. You talk a lot of common sense as well, and I've got great colleagues that do the same thing. Esther McVeigh is, of course, a regular.
Yes, that's right. Esther McVeigh
Carol Malone.
Carol Malone.
She takes
feisty.
no prisoners.
She does.
I'm actually scared of Carolyn Malone.
Everyone's scared of Carol Malone.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, look, JJ, it's great to have you. So Daily Expresso, that is on YouTube, well worth a watch. Let's have a look at today's front pages. The Times newspaper, Reeves promises to help as war pushes up energy bills. The Daily Mirror, Epstein files bombshell, Andy Mandy and the paedophile. Guardian, Europe rebukes US for easing Russian oil ban. And the three Amugos, that's a reference to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein at his estate in a rather posh part of Martha's Vineyard in America. A very, very damning photo. The bad headlines keep coming for Andrew, which is a nightmare for the king. So, JJ, where to start? Well, look, can we have a look at this Sun exclusive? 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. Did anyone vote for this?
No one voted for this, but they kind of did. And I'll tell you why. This is the government's scheme to reduce migrants and asylum seekers being put in hotels. People kicked off in the country about all the hotels that are being taken over. So the government said, we're going to take them out of hotels, we're going to put them into housing. Not just HMOs, but new builds as well. This is, so in a way, people did vote for this, but it's still going to leave a bitter taste in people's mouths because we've got a house shortage in the country. So I think since 1980, we've never built enough houses each year. Demand's going through the roof. Compared to Europe, we've got fewer houses per person than every other country in Europe. You can go and live in Romania and buy and get given a nice big house. But in the UK, we've got a huge shortage. So, of course, people are going to read this headline and think, well, actually, why am I on a 5-year waiting list in London for a three-bedroom house? But they're going to give a lot of housing to people who actually have come here and aren't contributing and haven't contributed so far. And now they're just going to walk in and now be given a home. It's deeply unfair to people, so I can understand why people would be angry about it.
Well, that's right. Brits feel cheated, and they might expect their government to put them first. but they don't, and it's not just Labour. This is a legacy of the Conservatives as well, and of course the famous Boris wave, where millions came to the country. At one point, 1 million in a year, but even 1.2 million over 4 years is just too high, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not sustainable. It ain't sustainable. And Keir Starmer saying, I'm going to smash the gangs. He hasn't smashed anything. People are still coming. There's no deterrence. Shamar Mahmood, I think she's saying the right things.
Yeah.
And she's gone to Denmark and she's seen their model and she wants to take aspects of that over here. But I think if you're going to say to people who are coming here on small boats, we're going to pay you 30 to 40 grand to leave, I would be thinking, okay, well, more people are going to come over just to get the 30, 40 grand, and then I'll be like, all right, see you later. They'll leave, and I'll just come back again, and I'll do it again under a different name, because they're obviously not coming with their passports and the proper IDs. So there's no real deterrent for people at the moment. There's only rewards. We should be using the stick. We're continually just using the carrot.
And we have to say, this is not racism, is it?
No.
Because what we're talking about here, Brits who feel like they're second-class citizens in their own country, this is Brits of all ethnicities,
absolutely,
of all religions, all cultures that are, and I think it's quite interesting, the growth of Reform UK, which of course you cover in fantastic detail in the Express newspaper, which is not unfriendly to Farage. Is that fair to say? Is he not the new Princess Diana for the Express?
We're fair to all politicians.
Most definitely. And but your paper writes a lot about Farage, I think because it makes a very smart calculation, which is that he is likely to be our next Prime Minister. And it's interesting because Reform UK, if it wins, it will be swept to power off the back of a multi-ethnic British vote, won't it? People don't realise that.
Yeah, it will be. It absolutely will be. They get a lot of... I was going to say negative press. It's not really negative press. It's negativeness on social media from the lovely lefties. They can't believe that an ethnic minority may support Nigel Farage and Reform. But as you say, this issue on migration, it's not about colour or race. On my council estate, there's people on my council estate, black, white, Asian, they all living together on a council estate. They don't want more illegal migration. What they want to have is the potholes fixed. Whether they're black, whether they're white, they will have the same concerns. Why aren't our streets safe? Why are there more stabbings? Why can't you walk down the road with your phone out? Why are the police saying the phone companies should be making the phones less expensive so thieves won't steal them? That's not the answer. The answer is stop the phone thieves. So it doesn't matter about the colour. What matters is, as a country, we are at breaking point.
And Brits with an immigrant background really don't like open borders. And this is something the left don't understand.
Mark, you said it perfectly. So, for example, my parents were immigrants. They came legally. Mine
too. I'm a Paddy.
Oh.
And, yeah, both my parents came from Ireland in the 1960s. And then your folks, what's the story?
Mum from Zimbabwe came over as a midwife. Father came over to study, then became a local council accountant. They had to jump through hoops. They get the right sponsorship, do the right paperwork, have enough money in their bank accounts, learn English. They saved money before they came to the UK so they could satisfy the standards in order to gain citizenship. When they look now and see what's going on, it's like, well, why did we have to do all that? But then these people aren't doing that. And then they're being given housing. They're being put in hotels. They're being given 3 meals a day. Why do we have to work 3 jobs a week when these guys are not working? Because the government says, no, you can't work, but we're going to give you all this stuff for free. And that's the feeling of many, I would say, children of immigrants in this country.
And I don't want to bring a tear to your eye, JJ, at 8:11 in the morning. But what about this stat, which is that we're going to need 500,000 extra homes purely to accommodate those expected to join us in the next 4 years?
Well, it's nuts, mate. It is nuts. Where are they coming from? Watford?
You have to wonder, don't you? Yeah, I'm afraid. Just Hertfordshire generally, we know that's a hot spot. Once Donald Trump's dealt with Iran,
yes.
Let's look at Watford. Let's look at Bushy. I want to ask you about this issue about housing as well, because perhaps you and I, we've got skin in the game because we love our country and we're concerned about the direction of travel. But we've got kids as well. So anyone watching this show or listening to the show that's got kids will not be happy. Because what chance does your lad or my 2 lads have of getting on the housing ladder when there is that much supply? That much supply and that much demand.
So it was Thatcher who I think did the right thing in letting people buy their council homes, right? The right to buy. She introduced that, and that's great because it meant like working class people like my parents could buy their council house and have a home of their own.
Did they do that?
They did that. They did that. They bought our family home. I think they got it for like 75,000. It's not worth a lot back in the black country, brightly ill. Now it's worth £110,000. Woo.
The drinks are on you.
Yeah. But
looking forward to that inheritance tax.
But for our kids, there's no chance. There is no chance. I think we're going to have a generation who are going to be more like the French. They're going to end up actually having to just rent for their entire lives.
And the problem with that is it's more expensive than having a mortgage.
It is more expensive having a mortgage, and the landlords just get richer and richer. And then you'll have someone like Zach Polanski will come into, or try and get into power, and he'll say, we're going to stop people from owning multiple homes. And that'll be his thing. We're just going to tax the rich. We're going to punish people who are successful. Well, what we all need to do is just build more. But there's many problems to that in this country. The restrictions, local government, local councils get to decide where you can build. Every local person doesn't want to have it in their back garden. Everyone's a NIMBY, but there's so many planning restrictions. You go to America, build, baby, build.
Correct.
Yeah. In the UK, no, you can't build it there. That's a green belt. No, there's a woodpecker that comes to this area. That's going to push the woodpecker out. You can't have that one. No, there's badgers over there. You can't do that one. No.
Well, there was a part of HS2 which wasn't able to be built because of concern about salmon. And I think it's somehow cost the taxpayer about 300 million to accommodate this salmon, which they then found out doesn't exist.
Even down to things like you go to mainland Europe and you get on those trains where they've got 2 floors. I remember saying
great idea.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's do it in the UK. I spoke to a lord about this. He said, well, the problem we have, JJ, is that when the train leaves Euston and it goes through Watford, they've got a lower bridge. And we can't destroy those bridges. We can't raise those bridges. That's up to that local area. When it gets to Birmingham, they've got different restrictions. So rather than just having the whole country be a case of, right, from now on, the government is going to decide how we do our infrastructure. It's like, no. In Liverpool can decide. In Manchester, they can decide. No, that's bonkers, which is why it's so difficult. That's just from building trains. Building homes, even more restrictions. And I'm sorry to rant about this, but it really gets my...
You've written half your column now.
The housing companies that are building these developments, they're so sly. They're doing it to make more cash. So they get a development, they'll build slowly and release the houses slowly so they can keep the prices high on them. And by the way, compared to European homes, they're building them incredibly much smaller than we'd get on the mainland. So it needs reform, roots, and I don't mean reform the party. Or maybe it does need reform the party.
You can take the man out of the Express. By the way, is that I Love Nigel tattoo on your wrist?
How dare you?
Let me tell you that JJ is rigorously politically neutral, which is why you're so readable in the Express and why I do love the Daily Espresso. I would say that I do the Mondays, but I tell you it's a great watch, it's a great listen. Speaking of a great listen, here is a voice note from James on his council tax. We're just going to put 10p in the meter. I want to ask you, JJ, before James's voice note, about the Prime Minister and his character, because he's not that great at politics, is he? I think
terrible at politics.
About that. But what about his character? Because there's a debate raging on the show today. Is it just because he's a lawyer that he speaks in such vague terms and, you know, it seems like he says one thing, he means another? Is he a lawyer or a liar?
I think he's a liar. I think Keir Starmer is a liar. If he was he was a lawyer. We know he was a lawyer. But if he was a lawyer, he'd be more forensic with everything. He'd be across everything. This Mandelson stuff, sorry, a month and a bit ago, he said, I didn't hire him. It was Morgan McSweeney. And then he fires him. And now he's saying, yeah, no, it's completely my fault. Well, which was it? If he was a lawyer, he'd be more accurate. He's not into the weeds of things with the right things. So I'm told that Starmer can be given a briefing and he'll go away and read it for 2-3 hours. He'll come back in and be like, okay, I'm all over that now. But then the people around him will say, yeah, but that's some minute. We don't need you to be all over that. What we need you to be all over this. He's and you're right, he's not a politician. He's not a good politician, but also he doesn't have the curiousness that a lawyer would have. So I think he's just a liar. He's either a liar or he's very, very stupid.
Wow, that is damning words, JJ. And it's interesting because he was the country's top prosecutor, and he cannot work out that Peter Mandelson's a wrong-un, even though he resigned from the cabinet twice in disgrace and had proven links to Epstein. What do you make of this new developing story as revealed by the Mail newspaper today? And it's quite a shocker for the PM, and Number 10 will be having kittens about this. Starmer's dereliction of duty, as astonishing picture emerges of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Epstein and Mandelson. The Prime Minister admits, JJ, he never personally questioned the Labour peer over his links to the paedophile before making him US ambassador. Why is it significant that the two men never had a conversation?
Do you not think that's bonkers? That you've got the Prime Minister putting a man who's going to be looking after Trump, he's basically babysitting Trump, he never had a single conversation with him about it. Didn't get Mandelson in the room and say, here, Mandy, baby, this is what I want you to do for me. I want you to get in with Trump. I want this, I want you to find out this, I want you to get close to this person in Washington. Never happened. And after that, once Mandelson was in the job, Starmer never once called Mandelson and said, how's it going? What's Trump like? What do I need to know about him? What does Trump like? What does he dislike? How can I make him like me more? What's he doing trade deals? He never asked those questions. And I'm telling you, a proper lawyer would be all over that. They'd be forensically taken apart and writing down, right, so he prefers Pepsi over Coca-Cola. Okay, got that. We're going to make sure the house is full of Pepsi when he comes over to Downing Street. He never did any of those things. Starmer, he knew, as did everyone. People who aren't in politics knew Mandelson was mates with Epstein, a convicted paedophile. If Starmer had guts, and also if Starmer had good advisors, if it was me advising Starmer, I'd say to Starmer, 2 months ago, I'd have said to him, just go out and say to people the truth. You know what? I knew that Mandelson was friends with Epstein, but for the greater good of the country, and because I know how great he is at networking and how much he can charm people, I thought he's the right person for the job for Trump. Trump's incredibly difficult, and I wanted Mandelson to be there to look after him for the benefit of Britain. And maybe it was the wrong thing to do, and I overlooked his friendship with a paedophile, but I thought it was the best thing for the country, for the greater good. That's what he should have done. Instead, he just chucks Morgan McSween under the bus and says, no, it wasn't me. And now, because he knows, I'm telling you, the government will have been told there's more stuff to come in this investigation and you're banged to rights. Everyone's going to find out all this information. So now he's got to come out and say, OK, yeah, it was me. I did know. If this was Boris Johnson who was doing this, everyone would be calling for Johnson to be sacked and the cabinet would have resigned. Starmer, Mr. Teflon. And the reason we're not calling for him to be sacked or to resign is because who's going to take over? We're not going to have a general election if he quits. We're going to have Lammy. Is that better? Ed Miliband, crazy net zero man. Is that better? No. If Starmer goes,
the ginger growler, roaring back into life.
Raina would be great, I think, but
her bark is worse than her bite.
So I've heard. So there's no one good.
I knew you'd be naughty this morning.
There's no one good to replace Starmer, which is a damning indictment on the state of our politics, that he is literally the best of a bunch of terrible politicians.
Wow. Well, are we stuck with him is an important question. And also, what do you think, folks? Is Starmer just a lawyer or is he a liar? Let me know, 0344 499 1000. Here's a voice note from James on his council tax.
It's James Smith here from Wales. Moved out to Wales about 6 years ago from Birmingham. Just had to get away from there. And it started out, our council tax was around about 2,200 a year. It's now at 3,700. So in the space of 6 years, it's gone up as much as that. And are we getting anything for it? No. We've got one grit bin in the space of about 5 miles. We've been on at them and on at them. They won't even do that. They put little piles of grit up the road and being told to do it ourselves. And all we get is our bins emptied once a week and our black one every 3 weeks. Potholes in the roads are an absolute disgrace. When you message them, they just say it's not the right time of year, it's bad weather, can't do anything. It's the whole place is just becoming an absolute turd show. Yeah. Great show, mate. Love you.
Well, James, I love you too. And JJ, James is from a similar part of the world from which you originate.
Yeah.
The Midlands.
Yeah.
Whereabouts were you born?
I was born in Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
New Cross Hospital.
Is that West or West Midlands?
West Midlands.
Yeah. What do you make of what that lovely man had to say there?
It's like Birmingham is not in a good state at the moment with the bin strikes going on, crime, potholes. It hasn't been good in Birmingham for about, I'd say, the last 4 or 5 years. It's just been in decline.
And it's England's second city.
England's second city, our second capital, yeah. The council is the biggest council in Europe outside of governments, outside of Westminster, Birmingham, and it's been in decline for a few years now. They've regenerated the city centre, but there's no jobs. There's, as I say, crime is up. For him to leave Birmingham to go for a cheaper life in Wales, and for him to say now that things are worse where he is, that tells you how bad it must be. But it's a common thing, this potholes, the whole country is suffering from it. Now, I don't know whether it's a case because we're not using concrete. On the motorways, we use concrete. On the roads, we use tarmac. Big difference. Concrete lasts a lot longer. But there's people, and people try and fix the situation themselves. People are going and filling in their own potholes.
Even Rod Stewart did it.
Yeah.
Because his Lamborghinis were getting completely destroyed.
Yeah. But you can get arrested and fined for trying to help fix your own country. It's madness. Council tax, I don't understand why it keeps increasing. And it's happening again all over this country.
And it's not like Norway or Denmark where the taxes are high, but the hospitals are like five-star hotels.
Yeah.
The taxes are going up, but the public service that we're getting is going down.
Yeah, completely. I live in the borough of Hackney. We're okay. Council-wise, we're okay. There's lots of potholes. As I say, there's always crime. You're going to get it everywhere. But this guy lives in Wales. I'm presuming probably quite remote. It's going to be, you're going to have ice, you're going to have snow around there sometimes. To have one grit bin, a 15-minute drive away is not going to help. So, but the thing is, what do you do? All you can do is use your voice at the next election and vote for someone else, because Labour failed us, the Tories certainly failed us. You've got to make a different choice at the next election.
JJ Anasiobi is the Daily Express's star columnist and the host of the hit YouTube show The Daily Expresso, Monday through Friday. And I've got a simple question for you folks this morning at 8:24. Is Sir Keir Starmer a lawyer or a liar? More to come.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Talk Breakfast, 8:27. Let's get a voice note from Damon on whether or not Sir Keir Starmer is a lawyer or a liar in regard to Peter Mandelson. Take a listen.
Good morning, Mark. Damon from Wigan. When I worked in the fire service, I had to be vetted by the DBS, which was sent to 2 police forces to check to make sure that I was perfectly okay to do the job. I cannot believe that the elites can just leave it to somebody else to pick their friends to be the British ambassador. We are a complete laughingstock on the world stage. And I think these acts of this government are deliberately done to ruin Britain and completely destroy Britain for years to come. Pathetic, absolutely pathetic government and pathetic Prime Minister. Thank you.
Damning words. How about this from Jay, who I think feels that we've got what we deserve, a theme very similar to what JJ Anisiobi had to say. Take a listen.
Good morning. Great show. Great listen. Just on my way from Stevenage down to North Devon. Listening to your show. And one thing that keeps on coming back to my mind, imagine voting Labour in that last general election. How must you feel? But also, if you've got Labour and Conservatives, who in my lifetime, and I'm nearly 50, keep on getting elected and keep on doing the same over and over and over again, it's a sign of insanity to keep on voting for either of them two and expecting a different outcome. At the moment, I'll be voting Reform UK, but Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain is hot on their tails. If Restore got in, and then you've all, if Reform got in, and then you've got Restore Britain up their tails to make sure that they do what's right for this country. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Well, Jay, thank you for a great voice note. Thank you for your really kind remarks about the show as well. It's brilliant to have your company this morning. You sound busy. I think you're in the car. And Jay speaks for millions. Lots of people that voted Labour, 9.5 million. Plenty of them have buyer's regrets.
Absolutely. I don't know if this has been reported anywhere yet, Mark. I was going to talk about it on the show, on the podcast on Monday. This might be an exclusive. I don't know if any of the other political journalists have picked this up. It's going to get worse for Starmer. Huge embarrassment coming within the next month, because I've been told several Labour MPs, at least 4 Labour MPs, are going to jump and defect to the Greens.
You are kidding.
No.
4 potential defections from serving MPs?
Yeah, they're going to go to the Greens.
That would be devastating.
Yeah, and this will be before the May elections, which is going to just completely destroy Labour regardless. But at least 4 MPs are going to leave. As we've been seeing with Reform getting Tories who are defecting, the Greens are having the same momentum, and there's at least 4 I've been told of who are in talks with the Greens and are going to defect. How is Starmer going to be able to stay in his position when he stands there in the House of Commons shouting across at Kenny Badenoch saying, your party's getting smaller? Well, now your party's going to get smaller, Starmer, because you have failed the country.
Also, would you say be careful what you wish for? Many people, myself included, furious with this Labour government. But what if the Greens become the party of the left in this country? At that point, I mean, that's when we all just we just jump on a plane, don't we, and get out of here.
We just have to start eating vegetables, hugging trees.
Get on Amazon, buy yourself a nice tent, because that's where you'll be living.
Yes. Yeah, Bob, you're absolutely right.
The whole country will be Glastonbury, won't it?
The problem I think we have with the Greens is that I've learned from the last election, well, the Tories are terrible. Labour can't be any worse. No, Labour have been much worse, unfortunately. Can anyone be worse than Labour? Well, potentially, but we cannot have a Labour government after the next election, because what they've done to the country has been terrible. What they've done to old people has been terrible. What they're doing to young people is terrible. No one is succeeding from this Labour government. I disagree with Damon, the guy with Damon sent in the very, very eloquent voice note. Yeah. He thinks that Starmer and co are doing this deliberately. They're trying to break Britain. I don't think they are trying to break Britain. I just think they're not very good at their jobs. Unfortunately, that is it. Yeah. And one thing I could agree with Nigel Farage on, and I've been saying this for years, the cabinet should not be made up of elected MPs. It should be the very best people in the country should be in charge of that department. So the business secretary should be Lord Dyson. That's who it should be.
Brilliant idea.
He should be.
He's a man who's made billions
exactly.
as an entrepreneur.
Precisely. Or Richard Branson, getting the best of British.
Jim Radcliffe. Because he's quite lively.
Jim Ratcliffe would clear up that department.
Drop a few truth bombs.
Yes, but that's it. We need to have the best in the country, people who've experienced it, people who know about that subject and have lived it. They should be the ones in those positions, not people like David Lammy. Well, okay, well, what does he know? What does he know? Okay, he's highly educated. He doesn't come across like he's highly educated. He comes across like a buffoon. But the government should not be filled with politicians. That's the problem with government, is that it's filled with politicians. We need real people in those jobs. A lawyer should not be the Prime Minister of this country. The Prime Minister of this country needs to be someone who knows business, someone who has worked with everyone, not just worked with the higher-ups and the upper classes, someone who has struggled in life, someone who has then built themselves up. That's the person who understands what it's like. Because when you're saying we're going to cut benefits, if you don't know what it's like to survive on 50 quid a week, then how can you possibly be setting those terms for people to live like that?
Most definitely. Well, you mentioned people that are not politicians doing the important jobs in government. I could give you Donald J. Trump, who is a real estate entrepreneur and TV star. And we know he's not perfect. He says a lot of stupid things. He gets things wrong and he makes mistakes. But if we look at the big picture, JJ, he's improved the terms by which America trades with the world. Every president complained about the tariffs. He did something about it.
Yep.
He's closed the southern border. 12 million people entered America illegally in the last 4 years under Biden. He's ended wokery in America's public institutions. So now, if you are a biological male, you're not doing female sport, you're not going into a female changing room. He has ended several wars, including the one in Gaza. He's trying to knock heads together in Ukraine. And he's doing something about Iran, which is the most evil regime since the Third Reich. Not a politician, but delivering.
Exactly. There you go. Case in point. Perfect.
And I know he ain't perfect.
Of course he ain't perfect. Of course he ain't perfect. But he ain't a politician. He's, for the most part, common sense. And he has told the American people what he wants to do, and now he's doing it in power. How many times have we voted for politicians in this country, and then they get into power, and suddenly it's like, oh, well, we can't do that. And they can blame who they want.
Totally right.
Yeah, with Boris, it was it Boris said the blob?
Yes.
Yeah, the blob. They're stopping me from doing it.
Oh, and it was Sage that made him do 3 lockdowns, which had destroyed the country.
Yeah.
And it was the environmentalists that made him do net zero.
Precisely.
More like his Mrs. Carey, I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And now Starmer's beholden to the left side of his party, having to do things that the left want because he's trying to stay in power, have their support. Sorry, no one in the country wants net zero. If it's pushing my energy bills up, I'd rather not do it. Sorry, no, I don't want to get what's the boiler thing you get to do your heat.
What is it? Heat pump.
Heat pump.
Apparently they don't work.
Oh,
I mean, the electric cars, forget about it.
No, yeah.
And I mean, the owners of Vauxhall have just done a $20 billion write-down because they were all in with electric vehicles. And they are 20 billion lighter as a result of that experiment. And they said, sorry, it ain't working. Before I let you go, we mentioned Donald Trump. Has he bitten off more than he can chew in the Middle East?
No. I'll tell you why he hasn't. Because he still has not used even 20% of US military. He hasn't, even 20%, he's not even at that level yet. What he's done is push them a little bit, and I mean, he's taken out, what, 3 leaders for them now? The first Ayatollah, then the guy they put in after that one died, and now the son of the first Ayatollah is disfigured, lost a leg.
Yeah.
If Trump wanted to, the US could obliterate Iran off the face of the earth. Yes, there'd be repercussions from that, of course there would be, but he's not used even half of their full military might yet. The countries around Iran in the Middle East, they don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. They don't want Iran to be in power. They are all against Iran. Trump has stood up and said, you know what, this is a bad country. Their supreme leaders have for the last 35 years been supporting terrorist groups across the world who are trying to attack and destabilise the West. I think Trump's doing the right thing in going after the Ayatollahs. It's absolutely the right thing to do. He hasn't bitten off more than he can chew. He just hasn't gone in with full force yet. And look, ultimately, as long as most of the people, there's always going to be casualties, and civilian casualties in war. He's kept it relatively low. He's taken out the bases, and Iran is, you know, it looks like Iran are putting up a good fight. Not really. Their missiles aren't really hitting anything. They're being shot out of the bsky. So I don't think he's bitten off more than he can chew, but I think this is going to be a longer war than he had anticipated.
JJ Anisiobi is the star columnist at The Express and the host of the daily show, The Daily Expresso on YouTube, which has got millions of views for good reason. JJ, we'll see you very soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Next up, a once idyllic British seaside town, now a hotbed of fear, crime and public anger. In a Talk Breakfast exclusive, we've got a shocking report on the migrant crisis engulfing Bournemouth. 8:37 Talk Breakfast.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'll be reacting to the banknotes scandal. Poor old Winston Churchill cancelled. That is a special Dolan's dispatch at 9 a.m. You won't want to miss it. Yes, we've got economic problems, political problems, but cultural is another big one as well. That is Dolan's dispatch at 9 a.m. This from Suni in Reading. Good morning, Mark. I couldn't stop laughing at the question you posed. Is Keir Starmer a lawyer or a liar? It's one and the same thing. Brilliantly put. What about immigration? This is a breaking news story, a world exclusive from The Sun. 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. Jake is in Portsmouth. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Mark.
How do you react to that?
Okay?
Oh, I'm very well, Jake. How do you react to that news when you wake up on a Saturday morning that 4 in 10 new homes built by the end of the decade goes to migrants?
I feel absolutely sick about it, to be honest with you. I'm a child of the 70s, you know?
Yeah.
And, then, you know, charity begins at home, I believe. You know, it's sickening to see how many homeless people that are British, you know, and it's not an holiday destination, do you know what I mean, for immigrants, you know. Yeah. You've got to leave eventually if you go on holiday, and I've had to pay to these countries, you know what I mean? The madness around that, I can't get mad around it. And back to the coal thing you were saying, mate.
Yeah, time to get... Well, should we dig for coal? Because it's worth a fortune and we've got about a century's worth under the ground.
I love coal. I love fire. I love looking at I love the fact that we got our own resources that we can use.
Yeah.
And basically, you know, I'm an ex-fisherman. I'm still strong. I'll quite gladly get down any pit. I've been to the pits at the bottom of everything for addiction, you know?
Yeah.
And just basically... Yeah, I love the fact that coal is where it's at. Our own resources, you know, we got tides, we got this, we got that, but the core industry would be bring back the coal. You know, personally, how many people have killed themselves since the strikes in the 80s?
Yeah, Jake, what a brilliant call. Have a great day in Portsmouth. Thank you for your common sense. Really enjoyed our conversation. Simon's in Derby. And Simon, you won't believe this, but we've got this so-called hate march tomorrow. It's very dangerous people who are supportive of the Iranian regime, which is the worst regime since the Third Reich. Iran, the biggest sponsor of terror in the world. And they call Britain the small or little Satan. But there's going to be people in London still participating in a protest yesterday in support of these monsters. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, I've decided that might be quite a good idea to make it a ticket holder event, stick them all in the O2, and they've got to pay to go in, and it stops the capital coming to a grinding bloody halt, which costs us God knows how much. And also, it's a bit like the football clubs who have to pay the police to control the supporters and make sure everything's safe and dandy. Well, we can stick them in the O2, and if they're that convicted they're convinced by their actions are laudable, well then that's fine. You pay tenner a head, stick them in there, and the police can control it, and they can also stick their their cameras on, the facial, this, that, and the other, and have a much more accurate view of who is doing all the shouting, and it just keeps the capital free, and they pay. And if you don't like it, you don't do it. Point one. Point two. Just as another aside,
yeah,
I was thinking about the 40 grand that we want to pay immigrants coming over here. So basically what we're saying is if we give you 40 grand, your country's not that unsafe. So you're just a little bit pregnant rather than being fully pregnant. So that doesn't wash either. What is wrong with this country? You can't have it. I mean, you're either in an unsafe country or you're not. And 40 grand doesn't make it safe, does it?
Well, it doesn't. That is the big issue, and that is the problem. There's just... What you've done, I think, Simon, is torn up the contract between citizen and state, haven't you? Isn't that the problem?
Well, I'd like to think that, it was the general population or the indigenous population that had the whip hand as we live here and we were born here. But it doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be any miscreant that wants to come here can have more say over our running of our country, and they've not paid a red cent to be here, and we're having to pick up the tab for it. It's not on.
And I'm also very glad, Simon, that we're on air today, because we're going to be the only network, I would have thought, in the country that will point out the immigration is still expected to reach 1.2 million people over the next 4 years. So we were told that the numbers would come down. Well, they're not coming down. This is not sustainable.
No, of course it's not, and it only has one direction, doesn't it? Really, if you think about it, it's only one direction of travel. This, and it doesn't look good, does it? In any way, however you look at it, there's no good outcome to this, and I don't want. I mean, I'm 67, so I'm at the back end of I'm in the autumn of my youth, as they say. But
you sound very youthful.
Well, I am pretty young thinking, but I worry for your children and grandchildren, and as I do for mine. And it just seems to be the weirdest sort of things you can do seem to get the most airtime. The most stupid things that are incredible, you seem to get the more seem to be made credible when they're totally not credible. And I don't get that. It's probably mainstream media doing. I don't know what's doing it, but it just seems to be the most obscure things in our lives seem to take front and centre of how we're supposed to live. Weird.
Weird is the word. You put it so well, Simon. Honestly, mate, you should write my monologues, because you've nailed it this morning. Simon in Derby there on the hate march, which has been banned tomorrow, but still we are facilitating people supporting an evil regime in our capital city. You couldn't make it up. And that shocking story that these folks, right, this charity that's been behind the hate march tomorrow has received at least £500,000 in taxpayer-funded donations because they've been using the gift aid loophole. So you and I have paid for people to celebrate a regime that would like all of us dead. You couldn't make it up, could you? 8:45, Talk Breakfast. We had a slight delay. We're going to get to this shocking story about a migration crisis in the sleepy town of Bournemouth. It's a national scandal. You won't believe the details. That's next.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
If you want to see the consequences of Britain's failed open borders experiment, look no further than the once sleepy, idyllic English seaside town of Bournemouth, which has now become a hotbed of anger, crime and fear. Let's speak to Gary Bartlett, who's the co-founder of Safeguard Force, who are trying to do their bit to make life in Bournemouth a little safer for its residents. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning. How are you?
Really well indeed. Thank you for joining us. First of all, you live in Bournemouth. Are you born and bred?
Yeah, born and bred in Bournemouth, yeah.
And Gary, how have you seen Bournemouth change in your lifetime?
Oh, it's changed dramatically in my lifetime. When we were younger, we could go out, feel safe. You can go and do a party and everything you want and come home again. No problem at all.
Do you have a little barbecue on the beach, a couple of beers?
Not back in the day when I did it, but yeah, that's the sort of thing they do. But in the summertime, it's good to see that they still do that. Have a barbecue along the beach is quite nice, but you see a lot of ASB as well as you're down there.
And it's interesting with Bournemouth because it was a very safe town, and it was a very, very attractive destination for holidaymakers, especially before we discovered the package holiday in Spain. That thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, would descend on Bournemouth every summer.
Yeah, they would. You'd even have the Radio 1 Roadshow back in the 80s and the 90s. It was amazing down there, yeah. And it would just be, the beaches would be packed out with just families and, coming from all over the place, yeah.
A very traditional English town, a very famous, a very long beach. And yeah, very beautiful. Lovely shops, department stores, a posh hotel, the Royal Bath Hotel, one of the finest hotels on the south coast.
Yeah, the Royal Bath, yeah, literally was. And Westover Road was like the Bond Street of Bournemouth.
Wow.
All the exclusive shops were down there, and now it's just full of down-and-outs beggars, people just taking drugs and sitting and sleeping in shop doorways.
And therefore, Gary, let's have a look at the elephant in the room, immigration. Bournemouth has been used as a dumping ground to house people that have entered the country illegally.
Yeah, I believe there's 3 hotels full of immigrants down there. But as far as Safeguard Force goes, we've started back on August the 11th in 2025. We've had zero integration with any immigrants doing anything wrong. So everything that's we've dealt with is not come from any immigrants. So we can't blame that directly to them. We don't see that part.
Yeah.
We do see them about. We see them about in the parks. On the bikes. We've heard stories about drug running and different things like that. But to actually see that ourselves, we haven't.
But what you've got is a town that has had an awful change in its demographic over just a short few years. It's something that I can't imagine the locals are all that happy about.
No, the locals are not happy about it at all, actually. I mean, it's a massive demise of what it used to be. It really is. There's shops boarded up. They're not spending the money putting shops back in. They're all turning it all into housing. You need businesses down there for people to thrive. I've got friends that own restaurants that are empty throughout the winter months. It's just shocking to see it, really.
Well, indeed. To what extent, Gary, is the decline of Bournemouth a story symptomatic of the direction of travel of the country?
Sorry, I didn't understand that. Say again.
Yeah, I mean, Bournemouth, it feels like it's not untypical that, what you have in Bournemouth, you have across the country, which is a nation in decline, antisocial behaviour, beggars, homeless people. It's not great, is it?
No, it's not great at all. No, it's not. I just think the money's spent in the wrong areas, really. Spending money on the cycle lanes and things like that, when they should be putting it back into the people, making people feel safe to go out.
And Gary, is there not local concern about illegal immigration? Because I spoke to Norman Brennan, who knows Bournemouth very well, a few months ago, and he said that illegal immigration and the housing of illegal immigrants, those migrant hotels, are a big problem for the local community.
Yeah, again, we don't see it. We go out on patrol and we go around there. We don't actually see any. We don't really see them around the hotels at all. We do see the Bournemouth Patriots. They do a protest on a Friday and things like that. But yeah, we don't see them. We go down Old Christchurch Road, for instance, where when we first started patrolling down there, maybe 4 or 5 months ago after the gardens cleaned up, and it was full of drug dealers all the way up. And since we patrol up there 3-4 times per night, the drug dealers sort of dispersed. They must be somewhere else, but they must have dispersed. And
Gary,
where they're coming from.
Why? It's amazing what you guys do. Safeguard force. You know, why are you required? Given the fact that some would argue what you're doing is what the police should be doing.
Well, after dark, unfortunately, as much as they say they're out, they're doing this, that, and the other, there is no police. Friday and Saturday night, you'll see police out. They have something called Operation Nightjar, I believe, or something. But certainly Sunday through to Thursday, we will very, very, very rarely see a policeman on the beat ever. So, you know, to do what we do, it does, and we get, you know, the reception we get from the public is amazing. You know, 99.9% of people just love what we do. All the shops, all the you know, the shops that open up Old Shoreditch Road, they absolutely love what we're doing.
Well, more power to you, because what you're doing is incredibly good for the community. Like you said, it's very popular. And are you doing it free of charge, Gary?
Yeah, we're all volunteers. We all got daytime jobs and things like that. We've got people coming. We've got solicitors. We've got people from the hospital, all different people that work with us on that. Yeah, so everyone gives up their own free time for it.
More power to you, Gary. Lovely to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Gary Bartlett, co-founder of Safeguard Force, who operate in Bournemouth to try to keep the streets safe. Gary says that actually the illegal immigration is not the big story in Bournemouth. That's not my understanding, but of course Gary's on the ground. So, you know, each to their own. Phil is in Hertfordshire. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Mark. What a great show. What a great show.
Oh, thank you, Phil. Well, look, it's nothing without you. Thank you for listening. What are your thoughts about our conversation this morning?
Yeah, I've just got something to sort of offer here. Our daughter was on the housing list in a local authority. Now, when she went on, she was told at least 5-6 years. That's what you've got to look at. Okay, fine. So time passes, and then she inquires as to how she's getting on. Oh, sorry, you're not on the list anymore.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, what do you mean you're not on the list? Well, we emailed you. Now, when they emailed her, it was during COVID. You know, remember, everything was locked down and no one was doing much. So we said, well, we can't see no emails. Oh, yeah, we definitely emailed you. What email did you send it to? Give us the address. I said, well, what email did you send it from? Do not reply at lowcatamount.com. That was the email.
Wow.
We found it in our daughter's junk folder. When you opened it, then there was a link to the local authority. Do not reply at lowcatamount.com.
For goodness sake.
It went straight into junk. We got a local councillor involved. It was brilliant. He completely agreed. He got in touch with the local authorities or the district council. Not interested. They said, no, we've emailed her twice and she hasn't got back to us. And we said, well, surely, if it's that important that you're going to remove someone from the list, you should have wrote a letter. You should have rung her, not an email, because people change email addresses, don't they, all the time? And also, it should have been from an email address that was recognisable. Do not reply at lowcatamount.com. Consequently, she's off the list. She's had to start again from scratch, which is, it's not going to happen now, is it? When the local councillor sort of challenged the housing authority about this, he then got back to us and said, yeah, they sort of did agree, and the email address, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What was the confirmation email address from Mark when she got the new application? Do not reply at Lowcatamount.
So listen, I mean, how does this all make you feel, Phil?
Disgusting. I feel betrayed.
Yeah.
Let down. And all these people that are supporting this kind of movement and this action, they're just traitors to their own people.
Wow.
They're just traitors, Mark. You know, people have got to wake up and realise what's going on. It's like having a dog on a chain, a massive chain, but slowly you take a link off of it. And over a period of time, that dog then becomes used to having a nice long chain to a little short chain, but that's his norm because it happens so slowly. And this is what's happening to this country. So slowly, we're having all our liberties and our freedoms and everything taken away from us. And it's done in such a way, people don't realise what's happening. And before short time, they wake up and they think, what's gone on? They need to wake up now and smell the coffee.
Phil, can this country be fixed? Is there any hope?
Yes. And this is one thing that I think we've all got to hope, and we've got to maintain and be positive and spread that positivity out there, because it will become infectious. We can change it, we can turn it around, and I believe we can. But, Mark, we have to have the right people to do it. We've got to have the right people that are going to stand up and stick up for the indigenous people of this country. It's like anything, it's that saying, isn't it? Look, you can come to my party, but what are you going to bring? All welcome, but what are you bringing to the party? Are you going to contribute? Are you an asset or not? That's, I think, how we've got to look at it. But I just think there's too many traitors at the moment, everywhere. Traitors.
And it's the establishment, isn't it? It's, you know, the media elites, the public institutions, some corporations, government. It's across the board.
It is across the board, yeah. And again, you know, the people that report the news, that they report the media, I know they're reading off a script, Mark, which they're told to do. You know, it was. Do you remember back in the COVID days when they was reading about COVID and the TV screen split in half and in quarters and sixteenths, and they was all reading the same script, saying the same thing. So they're told what to say. It's like a show. It's like we're watching a show, and it's a script. And all these news readers on mainstream media, they're actors. They're all told what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and they were just fed it.
Phil, there are no words. I want to thank you for your call. My heart goes out to your daughter.
Thank you.
It is keep this conversation going, Phil. You spoke so well, and we've used this platform in the right way. So much more to come. This is Talk Breakfast. Thank you, big man.
From the Sky News Centre at 9, there are reports the United States is to deploy an extra 5...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
.903, happy Saturday one and all. This is Talk Breakfast. They call me Mark Dolan. Fantastic to have your company. I hope you're having a very good Saturday. I'm with you today and tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. A packed hour to come. Breaking this morning in a world exclusive in the Sun newspaper, it's been revealed that 4 in 10 new homes built by 2030 will be used to house migrants. Meanwhile, a further 1.2 million people are expected to pour into the country over the next 4 years. Now, with those sorts of numbers coming in, it's been calculated that that would require 500,000 extra new homes. Supply cannot keep up with demand. Did anyone vote for this open borders experiment? It's getting worse under Labour. What's your reaction? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. Now, you can hear the show online, of course. You can hear it via the app, DAB+, happy to have your company. The DNA of the Talk brand is in radio, but you can watch us as well. And you can watch Dolan's Dispatch in just a moment. All you got to do, head to YouTube, search Talking Up with Pop. Got to say, I got the dream team tonight, directing our TV output. Davis and Luke. The boss this morning is the highly professional, the elite level journalist, the one and only, the fabulous Ted Jeffrey, and pressing the buttons, producer Dave, engineer Dave as well. He does everything. Faith is taking your calls, 0344 499 1000. As the saying goes, let's talk. And as always, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we kick off the final hour of the show with Dolan's Dispatch. Look, we know we've got political problems. A Prime Minister of reliably poor judgment, whether it's tearing up the special relationship, giving away sovereign territory in the form of the Chagos Islands, or appointing friend to the paedophiles Peter Mandelson for the top diplomatic job in the country. And we know that we've got economic problems thanks to the egregiously incompetent Rachel Reeves, whose policies have stoked inflation, added to the debt pile and reawoken the unwanted ghost of unemployment. And now we hear this week that in January, long before the war in Iran started, Britain had 0% growth, which once you flush that out into the real world is basically a recession per citizen. But we've got an arguably bigger problem facing us than political problems and economic problems. Because we can change our economic policies. There are levers to pull to tackle crime and boost energy supply. And every 5 years we can get rid of rubbish governments. So the politics and the economics can be dealt with, which is why arguably our most intractable problem, the really existential one, is cultural. There was the embarrassing spectacle this week of the proposed new Bank of England banknotes, which has seen the cancellation of the iconic Emily Bronte, Turing, and our greatest hero, Winston Churchill. And Churchill, the man who liberated Europe and saved the Western world, will be replaced by a badger or a squirrel. Well, I smell a rat! Because the ditching of great historic figures from our banknotes is more serious than it appears. It's the erasing of our past. It's the effective demonisation of someone like Churchill, who through the sick, twisted, amoral lens of woke progressives is somehow problematic. The man who defeated Hitler, the worst racist in history, is apparently a monster. What a sick world we now inhabit. But this banknote travesty tells us that our culture is being washed away, airbrushed and apologised for. And it's impossible for those woke lunatics at the Bank of England to come up with any historic figures. They can't think of anyone to put on a banknote because no one from our past ticks any boxes and they don't fulfil any diversity quotas. So we've had to abandon our past. William Shakespeare, Darwin, Fleming, all of them old white men. Well, we can't have that. So instead, we go to the animal kingdom to define us as a nation. It's a travesty. It's a joke. It is pathetic. It's a horror show. But it's also useful because it tells us that our country, our nationhood, our identity is slipping through our fingers. As a result of Britain-hating lefties who dominate our public institutions, I wonder whether at some point, right, poor old King Charles himself may not survive the next overhaul, right? King Charles, a noble man, replaced by a gerbil or a guinea pig. Well, we are guinea pigs in a new Britain that no one voted for, a faceless globalist hellhole with no cultural touchstones, no icons to unite around and celebrate, no figures to have high regard for, no history of which to be proud. We are seeing this chipping away of the British way of life in more than just our institutions. Now, it takes a lot to shock me, and as you know, it takes even more to silence me. But I was genuinely astounded to read about how the humble lollipop lady is now being equipped with body cams. Do you know what a lollipop lady is? Of course you do. It's that lovely lady who helps children and the elderly cross the road safely. It's the lollipop lady. She is a great British institution. Well, in 2026 in broken Britain, with our culture being eviscerated, she is now equipped with a body cam. This is an electronic device attached to her high visibility coat, which films everything whilst she's on duty. And the lollipop lady needs a body cam because she's had cars swerving past her at high speed. She's had expletives yelled at her as she tries to help kids and the elderly cross the road. And there are even reports of the humble British lollipop lady being spat at. This is the lollipop lady, nearly run down by a jag doing 40 miles an hour in a 20 zone, yelled at, sworn at and spat at in broken Britain. This is progress, is it? Are we really spending the legacy gifted to us by two golden generations of war heroes wisely? Of course not. What would our war dead think if they were alive today, seeing Churchill removed from our banknotes and his statue in central London being desecrated? What would they all think, those war heroes, of lollipop ladies with a body cam? What would they think of security tags on jars of Nescafe Gold Blend in the supermarket? And those weird plastic barriers that they've installed in Sainsbury's and the Co-op, protecting biscuits, washing powder, shampoo and other basic items. The once most civilised nation on earth is becoming the most backward, the most barbaric, the most inhumane, the most uncivilised. Now, Britain, at the moment, is still, by and large, a decent and friendly society. It's still, by and large, safe. But the direction of travel is not good. Politicians have been asked on the radio and on telly in the past, they always say, what is Britishness or what is Englishness, don't they? Have you noticed that? They say, oh, they think it's like a gotcha question, you know. In other words, you can't answer it because that would sort of demonstrate our multicultural experiment hasn't worked. Well, let me tell you, at 11 minutes past 9 in the morning, I don't struggle to define Britishness and Englishness. It's really easy. Are you ready for my definition of Britishness and Englishness? Here we go. Fair play. That is what Britishness is, fair play. Good humour, hard work, putting in more than you take out, looking out for your neighbours, thanking a fellow driver when they let you through with a flash of the headlamps or a raise of the hand. What is Britishness and Englishness? It's a couple of pints down the pub. It's a politically incorrect joke. It's a game of football in a park on a Sunday morning and a few pints straight after. It's afternoon tea. It's chatting to strangers in the 5 items or less queue at Sainsbury's. It's opening the door for a lady. Yes, you heard me right. Opening the door for a lady. That's still allowed. It's not cheating at Monopoly. It's welcoming strangers who genuinely flee persecution. And it's embracing all points of view. Tolerant, friendly, open-minded, kind and fun. That is what Britishness is. And decency is another big one. Decency. That is a uniquely British quality, which takes me to a photograph posted by the political broadcaster Emma Trimble. Now, Luke, have you got this image? There he is. Luke is so good, by the way. You know, I feel confident being on YouTube and making this a TV show because of Luke and of Davis and of Nahar, because they're the best in the business. Now, take a look at this image. If you're listening on the radio, I will describe it. And this was posted by Emma Trimble, brilliant political broadcaster. This is a man who's lying down on a train seat in London, and he's taken up several seats. So he's literally reclined, right, lying down on these seats. Busy carriage, people need to sit down. He's laid out, and he's got one of his hands down his trousers, and frankly, it's highly inappropriate. It's shocking. Lying across several seats on a train in London with his hands down his trousers, and there are kids on that carriage. That is not the British way. That's not the country that I know and love. Britain has a successful multi-ethnic society, but the multicultural experiment, not so much. Which is why we must welcome the diverse nature of our society. That's not going to be changed or reversed, but based around British values, British traditions, and yes, great British figures from our past. Donald Trump famously wanted to make America great again. All I'm asking for is to make Britain, Britain again. 9:14, your reaction. Have I got this wrong? Have I got this right? I've got a thick skin. Do your worst. 03444991000. Well, the person that took that photograph, which went viral on the social media platform X, joins me now. It's Emma Trimble, fellow at the New Culture Forum. Good morning, Emma.
Good morning, Mark.
Congratulations on taking this photo. As you mentioned in your post, you're reluctant to take a photograph of a member of the public and post it online. And I understand your reluctance because people are private individuals. So why did you go public with this one?
Because, I mean, even just looking at it, for those who are watching, I mean, it's completely disgusting. There were two children very close by. There was a little girl who was sitting 2 seats away from him, and a little boy that was sitting opposite him. Nobody on the train carriage was saying anything or doing anything about it. One of the children was looking at this guy, looking genuinely quite disturbed by it. And I understand why people didn't. I mean, a few weeks ago, maybe it was a little bit more than that, a guy who I think might have been a little bit round the bend kicked me while he was walking past me on a train carriage. And then when I just simply looked up at him, he started mouthing off at me. Now, that would have been an example where, you know, somebody could have said something. I could have maybe even taken a photo of this guy. I could have named and shamed him. But people don't intervene because I think they're rightly afraid. The law's probably not going to be on their side. Maybe other people in the carriage are not going to be on their side. They're possibly worried that the person who they confront might be crazy. They might be carrying some kind of weapon because London has, you know, the entropy is so bad now. The crime is so bad that you fear if you get into some kind of altercation that you might actually get physically hurt in some way. But I think it goes back to what you were saying, Mark, there, when you were mentioning the banknotes. Maybe this seems like a tangential point to make, but I think it actually goes to the heart of it, which is that the multicultural experiment has turned Britain into a nowhere place. It denies the fact that we are a country by bringing in such huge numbers of people and then not even demanding that they integrate. We have given up on Britain as a nation and as a people. There is no social cohesion. There is no sense of community. And so now you get people in public spaces who have no respect for the public spaces, no sense of the difference between public and private, which is a very cultural thing. It's not that case all around the world. But there's also a lack of respect for us as a country because we haven't demanded any respect from the rest of the world. We have become completely weakened. You see this with Keir Starmer and the way that he operates with respect to foreign affairs. But the way that we treat ourselves and the way that we expect to be treated by the rest of the world, we've opened ourselves up to being doormats, and people are not happy about this. You know, we see people eating hot meals on public transport, behaving abhorrently in public, and nobody feels emboldened to do anything about it. There's no sense of social accountability anymore because we're not a community, because government policy has encouraged us to atomize and has encouraged this social entropy and has created a system where those who take the mick are the ones who always get priority, and those who just simply want their country to be the way that it used to be are always the ones who are forced to be on the back foot.
The social contract, the unspoken agreement between citizen and state is just crumbling in Britain, isn't it?
Completely. All you have to do is walk through the streets of London, and even in my lifetime alone, the state of the country, the state of the streets, the state of our public services. This isn't about a lack of investment. This is about a lack of pride, a lack of sense of belonging, that people don't feel a sense of ownership or a sense of home, because our home in so many ways has been demolished. And going back to the point about banknotes, the European Union, people may have noticed that the architecture on the euro, those bits of architecture, bridges and whatnot, those are not real places. It's a very symbolic thing to have an entity bound together with no specificity at all. And that's what we're seeing with this change in our banknotes as well. As sure, it's animals, it's not quite, made up bridges and bits of architecture, but it's trying to move us away from who we are, in the particular, who we are as a people. It's the undermining of Britain as our home, as our shared home, and the identity of the British and the English, the Scottish, the Welsh as a people. And that's what multiculturalism has done to us. And it's been an experiment that has been inflicted on us without our permission. And the consequence of that, in order to accommodate all of this endless diversity, is that the British people have been coerced to give up themselves. And the consequence of that is that there is no social cohesion, there is no social accountability, and you end up with lollipop ladies being spat on, and a complete lack of respect for the public space, but also for other people. And just simply, the world does not respect Britain. The world does not respect the British, and the world is now in Britain. And so we're seeing it on our streets.
Emma Trimble isn't just a fantastic commentator. She's a formidable broadcaster now at the New Culture Forum, who are on YouTube. I highly recommend her absorbing interviews. Emma, thank you so much for your valuable time. It was a last-minute booking. Thank you for joining us, and more power to you for posting an image of a man lying down on train seats in a full carriage with his hands down his trousers, possibly on drugs, possibly drunk. Either way, a very un-British scene. Your reaction, 03444991000. Starmer, could the Mandelson scandal bring him down? One of Britain's best connected journalists has the answer next.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a full switchboard, so many calls to get through. Don't know how we're going to do it because feelings are running very high about a range of issues. I'll get to your feedback shortly. But at 9:22 on a Saturday morning, delighted to welcome the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, Kate Ferguson. And the Mandelson story is a headache that won't go away for the Prime Minister, with the latest concern being that the PM had not spoken to Mandelson before his appointment or after.
Yes, exactly. So this is kind of the story that keeps going, and it will do, I'm sure, for weeks more to come. The latest is that, yes, Keir Starmer did not speak directly to Peter Mandelson about his appointment. It sounds mad, really, but we've seen those first documents, and what's emerged is that Keir Starmer sent his then Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, and also his then Director of Communications, Matthew Doyle, off to do kind of the vetting and the quizzing of Peter Mandelson. Well, there's a bit of a problem there, which is both of those men had known Peter for years and were quite good friends, really, with Peter Mandelson. He'd been a sort of informal advisor to them for a long time.
So they were not dispassionate adjudicators, perhaps?
No, exactly. I mean, it's a very closed world, politics, and particularly Labour politics.
It would be a bit like if senior management here asked me to check you out. I'd be like, don't worry, Ferguson's kosher.
Exactly.
But that's because I'm heavily compromised.
Exactly. So that is...
And you know stuff about me as well.
That is another twist and turn to the saga. We've also got this... this really kind of bombshell picture that I think it was ITV that originally dug it up, because there's so many of these Epstein files, millions of them. So journalists have sort of been trawling them, but it's quite a laborious task. Anyway, finally, a lucky journalist has stumbled upon this one where we've got Andrew and Peter both pictured with Epstein in their bathrobes, and it's sort of just in one image really illuminates this kind of cosy relationship that those men have.
Definitely, and it's the royal family that are implicated and our politicians. And then in the middle, Epstein, noticeably, Epstein fully dressed, fully clothed, and these two men, formerly the son of the Queen, Elizabeth, of course, and then Labour guru Peter Mandelson in robes with wet hair. A real flex, a power play from Epstein, sending a clear message: I essentially own these people.
Yeah, I actually think it's bananas at how many kind of photos these men had taken of them in various states of undress at Epstein's home. It's kind of bizarre, really. But here they are yet again being treated to his wealth, treated to a kind of holiday, it looks like. Yeah. But they're in kind of quite a vulnerable state of undress while he's sitting back, having a coffee, lording it over them, really.
Definitely, it's the metaphorical noses in the trough, isn't it? That's what the shower robes are all about. And why is it an aggravating factor for the Prime Minister politically that he didn't speak to Mandelson beforehand? Is there anything to do with... Because his language following when this all blew up was that he apologised and he was sorry that he believed Mandelson's lies. But did the Prime Minister give the impression that he'd therefore conversed with Mandelson? And is that why he's in more hot water today?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I think most of us were just left with the impression, would have assumed they had had a conversation direct. So, yes, you might delegate things to
because
your
if
team.
you believe someone's lies, that implies that they lied to you in a conversation.
Also, just remember this appointment. It was much talked about before. There were rumours Mandelson were going to get it. It was always seen as a really big appointment. The key role in this charm offensive with Donald Trump, the key figure in global politics, and really important for British trade. Everyone assumed that Keir Starmer was having at least some of these conversations direct with Peter Mandelson. If you go through his quotes, as I've done on Hansard in Parliament, it looks like he was always quite careful to say, Peter Mandelson lied to my team. But people hear that and they think me. So I think it's a bit of... he's been very precise with his language, but we were all left with the impression, which we would, wouldn't we, that he at least partly interrogated this, and it turns out he didn't. Why is that?
That's right.
And why is that a problem for Keir Starmer? Well, two things. First of all, well, the Tories say you must have spoken to him. There must be kind of texts, emails, notes that we're not seeing. This kind of reeks of a cover-up. But if you didn't speak to him, well, why didn't you? Is it all so you have plausible deniability? Is it laziness?
Well, that's right, because you've either got obfuscation and dishonesty or incompetence, neither of which is great.
Yeah, I think
because it's incompetence not to meet the next ambassador to the US and say, by the way, what's your plan and here's what I need from you. Or if you did cover up and obfuscate. And what's particularly bad is that the Prime Minister's remarks, saying, I'm sorry I was lied to by Mandelson, were provably misleading.
Yes, that's what the Conservatives are saying. They're saying you misled the House. What Keir Starmer, I suspect, will say in his defence is, well, I used my language specifically. I never said I personally spoke to him. But it's this kind of dancing on the head of a pin that I think really erodes public trust in politics and politicians. Look, PM was making a big appointment by appointing Peter Mandelson. We all knew Epstein was hovering in the background. This big fire, what would it uncover? We all knew that Mandelson had continued a close friendship with Epstein after conviction. And it does beg questions, really. Why didn't the Prime Minister talk to him direct? Why wasn't he interested enough in this topic to really delve into it and demand answers? Because if Peter Mandelson lied to the Prime Minister directly, well, OK, the Prime Minister would have that defence, but not bothering to find out directly, I think, will cause a lot of questions.
And it's also surprising because you would expect the current Labour Prime Minister to interface with an absolute icon of the party.
Also, we know they did
He's a totemic figure.
It's weird. We know they did talk. We know that they did talk prior to the election. He was kind of an unofficial advisor back behind the scenes. Look, a lot of that was going through Matthew and Morgan, but some of it would have been going direct to Keir. So when it comes to actually appointing him, actually having serious due diligence questions you want to put to him, you've not talked directly to him. Why not?
Some would say that it is a scandal and that there is a case to answer, but that it doesn't matter to your readers of The Sun on Sunday. It doesn't matter to my viewers and listeners. What say you? Does it matter?
Well, I think it does matter. I mean, the Peter Mandelson scandal does matter because it speaks to, well, there's a few things. Keir Starmer said he was going to change politics, clean it up, it would be the end of sleaze. This really undermines that message. So it speaks to the man, it speaks to his own so-called moral mission in politics, but also it speaks to his judgment, OK? So if you are appointing someone with these questions that marks over them, why did you appoint him? And if you can defend that appointment, why didn't you interrogate it? So this speaks to his judgment. How across the detail is Keir Starmer if he's leaving these big decisions to aides?
The Sun and The Sun on Sunday break multiple massive stories every day, and they've done it again today, and it's been our lead item on Talk Breakfast. And it's the statistic, the figure that 40%, 4 out of 10 new homes built in the next 4 years will be housing people from overseas. And the public, understandably furious, because I've got listeners and viewers to the show who are on a waiting list for council property. Meanwhile, new properties, almost a half, will go to migrants. This is a big story, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, look, there is a very real housing crisis in our cities, in our big towns, particularly in South and Southeast, but all over the country. People cannot get on the housing ladder. I mean, I don't want to sound too London-centric, but in London, you basically got to be earning 6 figures to get on the housing ladder. 100%. It's crazy. That's private housing. You also have these really long social housing waiting queues for council housing. So it is going to be of concern to people if they can't get on the housing ladder either through the state's help or privately, and they see other people who are getting there ahead of them. This ties in with something else, which is the government said they were going to build millions of new homes. I think it was 1.5 million. Yeah. They are lagging well behind on that target. Latest GDP figures out showing that construction is down. So this is two things. This is why aren't we building more homes? Why aren't we making homes more affordable? As long as people can't afford their own home, they will be annoyed, angry, frustrated, rightly so, with the political establishment, and they'll look for politicians elsewhere. The other thing is, if you're born here, bred here, grew up here, and you're on a housing waiting list, it's going to be very galling if you see people from overseas get on that waiting list ahead of you, get on the housing ladder ahead of you.
And I honestly, I don't think your readers at The Sun on Sunday, my viewers and listeners to Talk Breakfast, I don't think that most Brits are anti-immigration per se. I think they've been pushed too far, and it's about the scale. And we've got another stat from this exclusive in The Sun, which is that a further 1.2 million people will be coming into the country over the next 4 years. It's too high, and it's creating big problems for the future, for the economy, for housing, for infrastructure. And there's only one winner, I think, and it's probably Nigel Farage.
Yeah, it's Nigel Farage and reform. I think you're right. The issue here is, look, it's a fundamental issue, right? You grow up in a country, you want to get on. Can you get a job? Can you get a home? Can you afford to buy that home? Do you feel like you can make your way in this life? Do you feel like your kids will be better off than you? As soon as that becomes topsy-turvy, you can't afford a home, you don't think your kids will be better off than you, then people will get angry with their politicians and political leaders. So this is a kind of double whammy of problems for the Prime Minister.
Really looking forward to tomorrow's paper. Kate Ferguson is the political editor at The Sun on Sunday. Thank you, Kate. We'll catch up very, very soon indeed. Ted, do you want a call or a break? What are we doing up here? OK, what we're going to do, folks, it is 9:34, much more to come. Your opinions next. Is Starmer, is he a lawyer or a liar? Don't go anywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I've got a job for you at 9:36. What is your favourite Only Fools and Horses moment? Because the brilliant Virgin Radio star Steve Denyer joins us for Retro Rewind. We're celebrating a very special anniversary of Only Fools and Horses. Your favourite Only Fools and Horses moment? Mine is, well, there's a few, but there's one where Del Boy says, I feel like a turkey that's got Bernard Matthews grinning at him, which I thought was good. And the other one was in reference to somebody they knew that was clearly gay. And Del Boy says he's lifted more shirts than Pierre Cardin, which I thought was very, very funny. Listen, folks, I'll stop the jokes now. Let's get to a voice note from Jennifer, if we can, Dave.
Morning, Mark. Regarding this damn march that's going ahead, it is disgraceful in United Kingdom. For goodness sake, it just makes you feel sick. But surely the government should be prescribing this, is it IRGC group as terrorists, like the Americans and other countries?
Yep.
Why on earth haven't we yet? Thanks, Mark.
You're absolutely right. It should be prescribed as a terror group. That's what I said earlier today in the show. I make no apologies for that. It's an absolute travesty and a disgrace, let me tell you. This is the, you mentioned it, the Islamic Human Rights Commission, IHRC. And it makes it even worse, Jennifer. Not only are we tolerating this group, they've had £500,000 worth of tax breaks paid for by you and I. You couldn't make it up. Colin's in Essex. Good morning, Colin.
Hello there, Mark. Yeah, I was hoping to get through earlier on when your police commissioner, ex-retired police commissioner was on.
Peter Blexley.
Yeah, Peter.
You've been placed on hold. Please wait.
I'm always on hold, I tell you. It's like a call centre, isn't it? What am I going to do now? What, can't they play music or something? Someone make me a cup of tea. I'm on hold. What should we do? Dun, 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 dun. Wait a minute. Don't panic, everyone. This is live. See, this is the magic. Oh, look. There's my music bed. It's all kicked off, folks. I've been in broadcasting a long time. And let me tell you that most media is horribly fake. What's going on here? This is real, folks. We don't mess around. This is talk. We're authentic. Colin is in Essex. Hello, Colin.
Hello there. Yeah, I was hoping to get through when Peter was on earlier on, because he could have confirmed I do believe even what they're calling a standing march on Sunday, if the same rules applies to a picket line, you're allowed only 6 people.
Yeah.
If you have more than 6 people on it, they can move you on. If you don't move on, you get arrested.
Yeah, Colin, I'm so glad that you made that point. How do you feel about the fact that possibly hundreds of people will convene in our capital city tomorrow, supporting a regime that calls Britain the little Satan and wants us all killed?
But I wouldn't be able to say over the television what I really feel about it, but it's absolutely disgusting that we're allowing it in our country, and it's abominable. What's happening. And as I said, if they got the charities given 500,000, surely that should be taken away and given to the police, what is costing the taxpayer tomorrow.
It's costing millions. And, you know, those weekly peace marches, so-called, after October the 7th, Colin, that figure runs to over 150 million now of your money and mine.
That's incredible. It's just everything what's happening, the 40 grand, what they're giving to people who are arriving illegally in the country. I can't believe the government could be so, against us. They're more or less communists, what they're trying to do to us.
Colin, you nailed it with 2 words there, against us. Yeah. That's what it is, isn't it? And I've got so many people, Colin, that call the show, listen and watch, who feel they are second-class citizens in their own country. I'm talking about British people, all backgrounds, all races. They've all had enough.
I just can't find the words. As I say, all I can pray that reform getting in hopefully in a year's time, because in 3 years' time there's going to be nothing left of the country.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think the economy will be gone by then, Colin. You know, it'll be a run on the pound, capital flight. All the rich people have been scared away. I mean, that's mad, isn't it? You know, wealth creators who buy Rolls Royces, we need them, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We need people to run the country who have been in business and know how to look after the money and put it in the right places when it's needed, in our armed forces as well.
And Colin, have you got family yourself? Have you got kids?
Yes, I've got 2 grown-up kids. One's 40 and one's 38. And as I say, I've lived in this country all my life, and I just can't believe how it's turned into something what I don't even recognise. Yeah.
It breaks your heart. Colin, you're a legend. I really enjoyed your company this morning. Please call me again soon. My best wishes to your 2 grown-up children. Big Colin, keep the faith. And I do agree the country will be in the toilet in 3 years' time. But the fundamentals are good, and we'll get this back, OK? All we got to do, Donald Trump wanted to make America great again. Well, my mantra, I've invented this, Ted. Let's make Britain again. All right. And that's, yes, we have a multi-ethnic society. Yes, we do. I'm ethnic myself, I suppose, as an Irishman. Multi-ethnic, no problem. Multicultural, you can do one. It's not worked. So let's make Britain again. Is that controversial? Should I get cancelled for that? Mary is in Hemel Hempstead, which is a very leafy part of the world. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Mark.
Mary, do you think I've gone too far with make Britain again?
No, look, I want to cover a few things if I've got time.
Well, I'll make time for you, Mary. Can we cancel the next guest, please? Thank you, Ted. Mary, it's all yours.
Can we cancel what?
The next guest, right?
Yeah,
Steve Denyer is going to have another cup of tea because I want to hear what you've got to say.
Right. With regards to the war in Iran, people have got to make a decision. One of 2 things. Either we let them hit the bomb and then we can be killed ourselves, and then World War III can definitely start because they're a death cult, or we can fight them before they get the bomb. And I, frankly, back Trump to do the alternative. But the other thing is the statutory march. You know what's going to happen. They're all going to stand still. They've obviously been taking lessons from Just Stop Oil.
Yeah.
To stand still in doorways, in the middle of the road, on roundabouts. So just stand where they probably pick a certain time and cause chaos. They can't be, they can be arrested, but we haven't got the jails. So where will they put them? So they can arrest them, but then they probably won't turn up the next day to go to court, if there is a court convened, because it'll be convenient not to do it. And with regards to the policy, what's happening with the country, First of all, I couldn't understand why they keep doing these terrible things they're doing to their own country. But now I'm beginning to wonder if they have an ideology that they completely destroy this country as it is and then try to start again with a completely new country.
Yeah.
But strictly communist. Everything has gone.
Well, Mary, I don't disagree with you, because I think what you've got with net zero and high taxes, the workers' rights stuff, is basically economic quicksand. There's going to be a crash, and may woe betide us if there's an economic crash, Mary, because you'll have Rachel Reeves with an emergency budget, and that budget will be dangerously left-wing.
Yeah, but also the problem is that if they're in the next 3 years, come the next election, we will probably have become by that time an Islamic State. With bringing out this Islamophobia law, which they try to claim is for help everybody, really they're supporting Islam, and they're allowing all these marches to take place that are costing the Islamists nothing, whereas Boy Scouts can't march in one town somewhere, George's Day, because it will cost the police to police it.
And Mary, what would you say to those who would argue that, you say that Britain's going to become an Islamic state, what would you say to those who argue that's racist and Islamophobic?
It's not racist because Islam isn't a race. It's
well said. Mic drop. Can we have a mic drop for Mary? You're absolutely right, Mary. That's why the Islamophobia definition is such a problem. If you can't criticise a religion, we're in trouble.
You're quite right.
Well, for once, Mary, it happens every leap year. Mary, what's your plan for the day? What's happening?
I've got nothing much, really. I've just come out of hospital, actually, with a suspected heart attack.
Mary, you're joking me. I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you feeling okay at the moment?
I'm feeling fine, but I was taken in an ambulance. I really was. I thought this is it, but I thought, well, I've lived my life. I don't like what I see coming, so I don't care.
Mary, we love you so much. You are a legend of talk. You interact with us a lot. You're a very wise lady. You've lived a life, and I just pray for your speedy recovery. And I hope have you got plenty of support at home and all the rest of it?
I've got fantastic support. My daughter lives next door to me. And I've got a wonderful grandson he wasn't interested in going to university. He's gone and trained to be a blacksmith.
Good for him.
Now a fully qualified blacksmith. He's trying to start building up his own little business. And he's one of those young people that makes you think, well, they're not all lazy.
Mary, he's a chip off the old block, and he'll never be replaced by AI if he's a blacksmith. Mary, we wish you a speedy recovery. I'm really sorry to hear about your health woes. They must have been very scary. And do take care of yourself, because you're a very important part of this talk family. Right, Mary? So you take care, and God bless. Have a good Saturday. Have a sit down, have a cup of tea, and I hope you've got good medical care as well. See, we are a family, aren't we? Everyone that watches the show, listens to the show, it's a community. We don't always agree, do we? But what we do is debate everything. No one gets cancelled. No one gets interrupted. No one gets gaslit or talked down to, like on other radio stations I can mention. It's the talk magic. More to come, 9:47. Don't go anywhere.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, 9:49. Thank you for your company. The brilliant Alex Phillips is live at 1 o'clock. I'm back tomorrow at 6 a.m. And folks, I'm delighted to say, as always, at this time of the week, we have a celebratory year that we go back to. Retro Rewind and Virgin Radio star Steve Denyer. Hello, Steve.
Good morning.
Top of the morning. Listen, you've been very well working your socks off, haven't you, on
Been a
Virgin
busy
Radio?
This week, really busy. We've got the episode 6 of TFI. I don't know if you've seen it. TFI Unplugged is back, and it's a bespoke kind of our YouTube thing, and we're on the show in with Chris. We've got Danny Dyer this week. We've got Joel Dommett, you know, from The Masked Singer.
Brilliant comedian.
Maisie Adam was hilarious yesterday.
She's great, yeah.
There's some live music from back in the day, so we revisit some of the, you know, the 90s bands and stuff. It's all on YouTube. Episode 6 of TFI. You were in the other week, weren't you? You were on one of them.
Well, I'll do anything for a bit of publicity. I was a background artist, waving and cheering, and it wasn't fake, because old Evans is a legend, as are you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Let me tell you that. And we love having you. We got great feedback every time you're on Saturday.
Can I just say, we've had I've just been reading all the messages coming through about Only Fools and Horses, because it's such a legendary show. We thought we'd do 81 again, because The Sun did a big double-page spread of the 45th anniversary of Only Fools and Horses.
Amazing.
So we'll get to some of these in a moment. Biggest event this year has to be the wedding of Charles and Diana. Do you remember this? 1981. The date was July the 29th. 750 million people watched this happen. Let's take a look.
Prince and Princess of Wales. And she steps forward on his arm, as they will do now through life. And if there's any heart that hasn't been won over by her today, it can kindly surrender now. A curtsy to the Queen before she leaves. Out into the open air and into the world and the world's chairs.
You can imagine people all over the country now saying, I want to copy that dress.
And the Queen, Mrs. Shamkin too, Lord Spencer, Lord Mayor of London, Duke of Edinburgh, all waving goodbye.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore. A truly global event, wasn't it?
I mean, you know, where did it all go wrong? But that moment, that snapshot right there, as it said, if you're watching it, was fairy tale stuff. Diana removed the word obey from her vows. The reason why they did it at St Paul's is they could fit more guests in. 600,000 of us lined the streets leading up to St Paul's. It was quite the moment, wasn't it?
It was quite the moment. And do you remember all the merchandise, all the plates and dishes and tea towels? Yeah. And there's something I've got at home, which is I've got, oh my goodness, what's it called? But basically it's for making, it's called a coddler. Do you know what a coddler is?
Go on.
Would you like me to show you my coddler?
Please do.
It's enormous.
It's taken months.
A coddler it's a porcelain device, and it's got a metal lid on it.
Right.
And you boil an egg inside it. So what you do is you crack open a raw egg and you put some cheese in there or a bit of ham, and then you close it and you put this porcelain pot. It's like a teapot, and you put it in boiling water, and it cooks the egg, and it's called a coddler.
So what has it got? Diana's face on it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Charles's as well.
Look,
his face gets more grumpy the hotter the water gets. And there was that funny interview before they got married where someone said, "Do you love each other?" And Charles says, "Yes, whatever love is." which maybe didn't bode that well for the future of the marriage.
I mean, watching the episodes of The Crown, I think it went wrong pretty much. It was going wrong before the wedding, but after the wedding, it fell apart probably within months. But
well, it was a funny thing, wasn't it? Because it just wasn't the right union. Charles clearly loved Camilla, but he's been fixed up with someone more appropriate, you know, a young aristocratic girl that ticked more boxes than Camilla, who was a divorcee. And, you know, it's in the end, that was at the heart of the problem, wasn't
And even when you look back at the clips we just showed, it just looks wrong. The optics are wrong, aren't they? It was never really going to work.
Well, if you want my 2 pennies worth,
go on.
And it's worth nothing, I believe that Diana married for love. I think she fell in love with Charles, and I think that Charles was fond of Diana but did not love her. And without love, that is the glue of any relationship.
It's not going to work, is it? And he didn't. And he didn't. Should we talk about Only Fools and Horses?
Go on then.
So it started back in 1981. The very first episode was called Big Brother. I've managed to unearth the first episode. Do you want to take a look at this? Is how it started 45 years ago.
Now, what really astounds me about that clip, that's the first ever episode. More power to you for finding it. And it's exactly like the last episode.
Isn't it?
In other words, the characters were so well drawn and interpreted. Sometimes with sitcoms, it takes a few series to warm up.
Yeah.
Well, that was ready to go.
It's amazing, isn't it, to see that. The characters were there, the jokes were there.
From day one.
It hit the ground running, didn't it? We've had so many of your listeners and people watching this suggesting their favourite moments. The bar fall seems to be one of the most popular. This is in 1989 with Del Boy. Do you remember he kind of fell through the bar? A brilliant piece of acting.
Because what he does is he says, look, when you're around ladies, you've got to be very cool, calm and collected. At which point he falls through the gap in the bar. Yeah. It's iconic, isn't it? And for me, some of the one-liners, you know. Yeah. For example, he refers to a character that they both know to be a gay guy.
Yeah.
And he says this guy has lifted more shirts than Pierre Cardin. Which is, and you know, that's not homophobic,
that's kind of throwaway, isn't it?
Hilarious. And the other one is that something unfortunate has happened to Del Boy, and he says, I feel like a turkey that's got Bernard Matthews grinning at him. With a reference to the famous turkey farmer Bernard Matthews. And the because that was, you got a lot of those references to famous people or famous things.
Lots of the episodes in the 90s really came alive. The Batman and Robin one. There was the there was We're Gonna Be Millionaires. That one that was huge.
Next time this year we'll be millionaires.
This is it, and they got like 25 million episodes. The reason I mention this is UK Gold have unearthed lots of previously unseen clips. They're going to be doing some specials.
Great.
And it's also, they've revised some of the Only Fools and Horses into kind of like super quality.
Wow.
So it's the first time you'll be able to see
Upgraded
it all. And I'll get a date for you as soon as that airs, but it's coming soon. 45 years since Only Fools and Horses was released. It just reminds me of Sunday nights, going to school the following day, watching that. It was like the final kind of great moment of the weekend before you knuckled down and you were back at school.
And Only Fools and Horses was Christmas Day. Right, we've got more. You got more for us?
Yeah, this was the big movie, directed by Steven Spielberg, produced by George Lucas, originally going to be with Tom Selleck, but of course it was Harrison Ford. Let's take a look at the biggest film of 1981.
For nearly 3,000 years, man has searched for the lost Ark of the Covenant.
The Bible speaks of the Ark leveling mountains and laying waste to entire regions. Not something to be taken lightly. No one knows its secrets.
Jones, do you realize what the Ark is? It's a transmitter. It's a radio for speaking to God.
It is desired above all treasures on earth by those who are good. Trust me.
Indiana Jones, great entertainment. Unlike Only Fools and Horses, started brilliantly. The later movies, not so much.
Yeah, should have just kept with maybe the first couple, maybe the first couple. Other massive thing I want to mention, I interviewed Bruce from the Buggles this week. Do you remember the Buggles?
Of course I do.
Video Killed the Radio Star.
Brilliant.
Ties us nicely into MTV launch in 1981 because the Buggles Video Killed the Radio Star was the very first MTV video ever to be shown, not just here, but in the world. Apparently that first day, they only had that and 3 other videos to play by the likes of Pat Benatar, Rod Stewart and The Who. No one was ready to release videos. The MTV launching set the precedent, but Bruce from the Buggles, they made that their video in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it just was the right song to launch the MTV generation. It all started in 1981. And no one could watch it here because we didn't have satellite dishes then. In America, they
Favourite
did.
videos for you then of history?
I think the one that changed everything was probably Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel.
That was really good.
Aha, Take On Me was another great one as well.